Last week on Gleeboot, we talked about an episode that we really liked and had no Will Schuester. And this week, the universe punishes us. And that's what you missed on Gleeboot.
Yeah, I do feel punished.
So excited to talk about only Will Schuester in this episode.
So this week, we're talking about the Rocky Horror Glee show. And the only horrible thing is I've seen this episode multiple times and I haven't seen the real Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Which I still don't, you need to get on that, Cullen.
But welcome to Gleeboot, the podcast where we get drunk and talk about rebooting Glee. I'm Cullen.
Alyssa.
I'm Hannah.
And we have a very special guest today, the host of the podcast, The Gory Days, Kyle Leone. Welcome.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. Glad to be on the show. I've heard so much about it from Cullen, and I'm finally happy. I'm finally a guest. It's a dream come true.
Yay.
Aren't you glad you get to talk about such a great piece of content?
Oh my God. I mean, so you brought me on because you texted me and you're like, hey, do you want to be on my podcast, Gleeboot? We're talking about Rocky Horror, and that's kind of like in your purview. And I'm like, oh, I'm flattered. Yeah, I guess Rocky Horror is kind of horror. It does have the word horror in its name, so I'm flattered that you thought of me. But to tell you the truth, I have a really conflicting relationship with this musical and the show itself, Glee. So I'm really excited to get my take on the soapbox that is Gleeboot.
You're on the perfect podcast.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to hear this.
Yeah, we're excited to hear. Good, bad, or indifferent, we're here for it.
I just now realized that your podcast is also the podcast that Colin guested on.
Yes, that's right. He did Insidious for his movie a couple months ago.
But wasn't it? Wasn't it supposed to be a different movie? Yeah.
Yes, that's right. It was supposed to be Insidious, but I accidentally watched The Conjuring.
No, I watched The Conjuring. You watched Insidious.
Oh man, yeah. I already won my tie-in. You told me that there was a segment here, What Are We Drinking? And I think I accidentally thought that we were starting recording at 5, so I started drinking a little bit.
Perfect.
Which is my first excuse.
I've been
amazing.
drinking too, yeah.
Well, along those lines, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking a Mai Tai.
Ooh.
Yeah, with let's see, it's a rum and Mai Tai mix. I don't know what's in a Mai Tai.
Oh, okay. I was
But
going to ask, I was like, what are the ingredients to that? Okay, rum
I
and
have no idea.
mix.
Yeah. But I've also got some sake here that I'm enjoying too. I'm doing this right.
Mm.
Yeah, but no, my podcast, I had Cullen on, and we were supposed to do one movie, and I watched the wrong movie, but he was such a good sport, and we muscled our way through it.
We had a good time.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I'm glad.
It was a good app. I listened.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad. Yeah.
What are you drinking, Hannah?
I am drinking Coke and Jameson, or as I would like to call it, a Jesse St. Jameson and Coke. I literally said that out loud in my kitchen. And I went, nice. So I'm really excited about that one.
Cullen and I are drinking peach soju.
Oh, there you go. Soju.
Yeah, it is really good. Like, too good. It's going to be gone, and then Cullen's going to have to go get the citrus one from our fridge.
We're going to call it, its Glee name will be Duets because that was last week's ep and it was so good. And now we have to watch this.
So the soju is a callback to the episode we actually liked.
Yeah. All right. So let's, before we get into this particular episode, Kyle, what's your relationship with the show, the pop culture phenomenon, the live tour that was Glee?
A live tour?
There was a live tour.
We have so much tertiary Glee content to cover on this episode.
It blows my mind that this wasn't a Disney property, like right from the start. It's dripping with that kind of money and that kind of attention, but it's Fox, years before the Disney acquisition.
But in the Glee boot, we can have Disney songs because Disney now owns Glee.
Yeah, you totally could. This movie or this show premiered in 2008. Am I correct? Is that right?
2009.
2009. Okay, so
close.
So I was a senior in high school.
Was I think 2010, 2011? I think this season.
Season two, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it premiered when you were a senior.
Yeah, it premiered when I was a senior. In 2009, I was a senior in California, and I was in every choir group that I was allowed to be in, everyone except the all-female group. So this like was my world. This was my life. And it was a big deal when it was coming out, when like the ads and stuff, all my other choir friends and theater friends were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're making a show about us. Can you believe it? And, you know, as like full of ourselves as we were, the show finally comes out. And sure enough, we each are individually like, oh my gosh, it's so fun. And I think I hate everybody on it.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I think everything, before we even knew what the word problematic meant, is super problematic and reinforcing a lot of terrible, horrible things. I mean, the very first episode, I think, opens with Chris Colfer getting abused by a bunch of students. He gets thrown into a dumpster or slushied or both. And that was like my impressionist mind going like, oh, okay, so I guess I can't come out ever, because this is the kind of like thing that Hollywood expects for even a school that, it grinds my gears how much the show is like, we didn't have a Glee club or anything before. It was only a high school with all these extremely talented children just doing sports and just going to this and just being a bunch of models walking around without any creative outlet until fucking Matthew Morrison showed up and saved the day.
Yep, the savior.
I feel like a
relationship is contentious.
I feel like a Sith Lord. I'm like, feed into your anger.
So upsetting. It was so upsetting because we were all, I'll speak for myself. I was expecting a show that was going to like demonstrate what it was like to be a creative kid in the 90s, in the late 2000s, having grown up in the 90s. I didn't think that the show would be reinforcing all of the things I had run from the 90s.
Why? Why would you think that that's what the show would be?
I have no idea, because I'm stupid. Because I have these silly ideas of the responsibility Hollywood has instead of the obvious one that they have to make money.
Right.
There's no morals, there's no lessons. They just want to make money and sell CDs.
Oh, of course. One of my favorite turns of phrase is that Hollywood is just legalized gambling.
Oh, do you mean like that Hollywood is picked up on the fact that representation and progressivism is profitable?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Because that's the only reason we're experiencing a black Ariel and things like that, is because it's profitable and provocative, not necessarily progressive.
Oh, yeah.
They're doing the right thing for the wrong reasons, but is that life? I don't know. Is that what we've been like conditioned to believe life is by our corporate overlords?
Right thing for the wrong reasons?
Yeah, that Disney is putting marginalized people in front of the camera and giving them lead roles. And they're really doing it because it makes a lot more money than being racist and having white guys in the lead roles. But they can do both because they're Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Disney is like...
Go ahead.
Go, Hannah. You probably have something better to say.
Well, it was going to be a joke, because my favorite part about this conversation is like we're having this really intense conversation, and then I just hear someone pouring something in a glass, and I'm like, yeah, it's drinking time.
That was
real.
It's the soju.
It's the soju. Yeah. Disney and Hollywood in general, they know it'll make them money, and certain...
Are we supposed to be talking bad about Disney, or are we supposed to be pitching a reboot to them? I can't...
Oh my goodness. If they're going to ever reboot this, they have to realize what's bad about it. So
right.
And that's what our job is.
At the same time.
It's a hard job, but somebody's got to do it.
Yes.
We chose it. It's our destiny.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, definitely Disney there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll be the first person to say that I loved the Don't Stop Believin' rendition at the end of the first episode. I have a vivid memory of hating the entire episode, but that saved it. That last bit where they're all singing Don't Stop Believin', that saved it for me.
Okay, so I'm not the only one who hates the pilot.
Yeah, no. So the music is good in a vacuum, like on the CDs and stuff, but it's so silly, it's so ludicrous how they try to imply that the 6 band members in the corner of this linoleum room are able to perform to the level of a completely mixed and mastered finished recording.
Yeah, no, the William
It's fun, though.
McKinley
It's
High
just
School Jazz Band is that's what's on their drum. They are fan-fucking-tastic.
they really are.
Legends.
That one pianist is somehow able to play bass guitar on the piano. He's so
Right?
good.
I have seen that so many times where he's like hitting keys and I'm like, that's not the same instrument.
Yeah. Oh, Glee. Yeah. We watched the pilot, and like I had listened to other Glee podcasts beforehand, and everyone was like, the pilot was so good, the rest of the show was so disappointing. And then we watched all the pilot, and we were like,
This is
no.
garbage.
And then some episodes later on, we were like, oh, this is when the show is starting to feel more fun.
I just remember it playing a lot with my feelings. Like I said before, it had a responsibility to me, and I felt betrayed and sexually confused with every episode. It just got worse with every episode. Every time Chris Colfer would show up and Finn feeling bad about his body, it was just very confusing for me.
Yeah,
I was lucky because I did not watch this in high school, because I tend not to watch things that other people think are popular until like 10 years later.
You and I would
I'm
get
watching
along.
it now. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't watch it a ton in high school either. I watched it more in college. And yeah, this show definitely has messages.
It's so confusing because they're all high school students and they're all beautiful and they're all talking about how beautiful and sexy they are to each other. And I had friends who talked like that in high school, and I was uncomfortable about it then, and I'm still uncomfortable about it, people portraying children saying, "Ooh, aren't I sexy?"
Yeah.
Fair.
We all agree with that, I think.
Oh my god, and don't get me started with the paraplegic who's not actually a paraplegic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Artie. Our favorite Glee character.
Oh my goodness. I have things to say about him today.
So, okay. I think that was a good intro to your feelings on this phenomenon.
So that's the end of the first part of the episode.
Yeah. No, but that's one of the reasons we had you on, because I knew you had feelings. And I knew they were very interesting and like good feelings to discuss. So
I'm glad, yeah. I can only speak to my experience. That's all I got.
Yeah, but that's what we're here for. It's always fun because we've had people that haven't watched a lot of Glee. We have people that have watched a lot of Glee. And it's fun to see everyone's take on the show. Because everyone has a take on Glee because it demands it.
Yeah,
It demands
I didn't
new
watch
takes.
a ton of... Yes, I didn't watch a ton of like live action TV in high school. So the two big ones for me, well, the three big ones were House, Heroes, and this.
Oh,
Interesting.
yes. I remember House being really big, but I never watched it because I didn't like the medical dramas.
Yeah, my mom and I loved House.
Heroes. I remember watching Heroes, though. I was really into that one.
Yeah, that first season was great, right up until the writer's strike, really, and then it never came back after that.
Yeah, I remember it being quite disappointing after the first season.
Yeah, but I guess we wouldn't have superhero movies and culture like we do now without it. So
Yeah, it was cornerstone, really.
yeah.
All right. So getting into the Rocky Horror Glee show. Hate the title, step one.
Yeah, that's a great place to start. At least the title immediately makes sense.
Oh, unlike mattress?
Yeah,
Or
unlike mattress.
laryngitis?
Laryngitis. Okay, so laryngitis. By the time we're recording this, we have just published our episode on that. And I'm thinking how, like, you have to think so hard about that title for it to make sense. And that makes me so angry. So actually, I kind of appreciate this title, how simple it is. I don't have to think. I'm like, got it. I know what this is about.
Yeah.
So it opens with Santana's lips singing the opening of Rocky Horror.
I was trying to figure out whose lips they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I
Like
had
Santana.
no idea.
Yeah, it's Santana's Naya Rivera.
How did you know that?
Her voice.
Her
Her
voice.
teeth. Oh.
I just I don't have that sort of experience under like hearing her voice and just being to be like, oh, that's Santana.
Yeah.
I don't have that.
Yeah,
What
I
are
can
our
recognize her voice.
storylines? What's even happening in this episode?
We have two storylines, really. We have the Will Sue Rocky Horror storyline, and we have Finn's body image issues. So only two this week.
And guess which one is the bigger one?
Are we combining Emma with all of that?
Yeah, poor Emma, against her will, is involved in the A
Oh,
plot.
it's disgusting.
Yeah, I would feel like she's part of Schuster's whatever it is.
His
I
attempt to
want
woo
to
her.
say I want to say it's a plot, but I don't want to give it
His
that-
plot to sexually harass her.
Oh my
Right, I was
God.
just gonna say it's sexual harassment.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
So the episode then, it opens with the rehearsing Rocky Horror. They're singing There's a Light at the Frankenstein Place. And it's cut by John Stamos, Carl, coming in and being like, Will, you're messing with my woman? We had a deal. And then it stops and Will is like, this is...
Record scratch.
Right,
Yeah,
record scratch.
Will's like, this is a man who stepped in it. And it's like, I hated the last time we had Will flashback to the front. Like, we did a flash forward at the beginning, and Will's like, oh, I made a mistake, and I'm hating it again.
Wait, was that the episode where he's fighting with Sue? And
Yeah.
then,
Mhm.
yeah, I hated that too. Just not good.
So I
Not good.
recognize this storytelling device. It's pretty common where you show someone in like dire straits, and then you go, "You're probably wondering how I got here."
It's a
And then
meme
we
now.
start like from 3 days earlier. But like, what's the point of this one? It doesn't. The big thing is that the guy runs in and goes, "Are you sleeping with my? Or are you getting with my girl?" But didn't we always know that he was trying to get with Emma? So it's not really a surprise that he finally got caught by beautiful John Stamos.
No, this just feels like the person who wrote this episode
Ryan Murphy.
wanted to do it.
Was
just
it Ryan Murphy?
Ryan Murphy. It was story by Ryan Murphy and then written by Ryan Murphy and someone else, and
boy.
and directed by Adam Shankman. And I have a lot of thoughts about how we came to have Rocky Horror Picture Show as the central concept. One theory is Sam's hair, that it kind of is Rocky-esque already, and so they built
Yeah.
the episode around that. Or they knew that they wanted to do Rocky Horror, and then they had to come up with some garbage storyline because they booked Barry Bostwick and Meatloaf. And I hate everything.
That is funny. Sam's hair does already look like
Yeah,
it
the
does.
I think
top
that
thing that he's got.
that's where he started. Like Ryan Murphy cast him and was like, you look like Rocky from Rocky Horror. Oh, I know what we're gonna do. And I'm like, okay, this is me in the writer's room. I can hear it. I can see it. I hate it.
I just know that whatever the reality is, it's not like a bunch of kids thought, oh, Rocky Horror is awesome. I can't wait till Glee does a Rocky Horror episode.
Oh boy.
I think Glee introduced people my age, like at least in my school, to Rocky Horror Picture Show, because I think
Really?
this is how I got to it, because people in my high school for one of our talent shows did like a group thing of the time warp. And I think it's because they got the idea from Glee, and then we all ended up watching Rocky Horror in high school because of this. I think that's how it happened.
I never saw Rocky Horror in high school. I only saw it in college. I didn't even know it existed. But then I didn't know really Glee existed either, because
That's why I was so confused as to why all these children knew what Rocky Horror was already in high school. So I'm like, I think Glee was the reason I found it. I don't know why these other children in Northwest Ohio found Rocky Horror on their own.
Yeah, that moment is so funny where he walks in and he's like, we're going to do Rocky Horror, and everyone, and Chris Colfer and everyone's like, oh, we're doing Rocky, oh. And Finn's the only one that goes, I've never seen it. Like, no one in the class had seen it.
Yeah, Finn often is the most realistic teen character. Often, not always.
Sometimes.
There was a whole episode where he prayed to a grilled cheese.
For God's sake, are you serious?
Yeah.
Is that this season?
This
Yeah, that was
2
a couple
episodes
episodes ago.
Yeah, you could
Yeah.
you
Oh,
could
wow.
probably get through that. It's a fun one.
Yeah, that's Glee's take on religion, what everyone was asking for. Yeah, so it opens in the lunchroom with like the teacher's lounge, whatever area where they're eating food, and Alyssa pointed out that Emma is not wearing gloves or polishing her grapes when she's eating. She's just like eating.
Yes, I
Yeah.
did notice this.
And she's
So
got
that's it.
her crust still on her sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
And Will,
Which I guess is such an unusual thing that it's not weird at all when Will says something about, oh, hey, you usually always remove the crusts off of your
Because
sandwich.
he's a stalker, and we just accept that about him.
Okay,
Yes.
good, because I wrote that down. I have a list here of ways Mr. Schuster was a creep, and that's number one.
Yeah.
yeah, he's a total creep, and at one point he sent her to a mental institution, basically, or like gave her the number of a doctor and was like, "We can't date until you fix your problems."
Yeah. And then she disappeared for 4 episodes. And we're like, she went to a mental institution. He set her up.
So he,
She got lobotomized.
so she's having a good time, like she's adjusting, and Will's mental thought is, he's making her better. He's winning.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, I was so mad. I was so
too.
angry.
There's so much to unpack in just this opening scene. Yeah, because he's winning, and then she's like, oh, we went to Rocky Horror, and it seems like something she wouldn't like because the theater's old and sticky and people are throwing things. But it shows her having a good time and she's happy. And Will's like, why didn't I take her to that show? Like, ugh, she's getting better without me.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely blind to the fact that John Stamos is clearly getting her to come out of her shell, and she's comfortable with him.
And that it's good for her, and why is something being good for her like bad for him?
It has nothing to do with him.
Exactly.
That's why. He's like, I didn't do this. Boo-hoo me. I suck.
She's literally like, oh, I had some fun this weekend. And he's like, what an asshole.
Right. Yeah. He's like, how dare he let you have fun? I would only ruin your life. Be with me.
I'll just lie to you. I'll say whatever you want.
Ugh.
Gross. He's the worst. I don't know about you guys, but like I was actually kind of distracted by the teacher extra in the background of that scene.
Me
who,
too.
like, glared at him as like they walked away, and I was like, I am that guy.
I literally
There's
said
a lot
that.
of really great extras in this episode. Like they did a great job. They really stood out, and even though they're not supposed to.
I thought in that moment that guy was going to try to ad-lib like a look to Matthew Morrison, and Matthew Morrison didn't quite make his eyes all the way to meet him, so he missed his shot.
Yeah, because he will, and like this feels like a plot that from like Arthur, where he's like, "Oh, you like Rocky Horror? The Glee Club is gonna do Rocky Horror as the school musical."
Okay, wait. Are we
Yeah.
talking Arthur the Aardvark?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course he is, Alyssa. Why did you
Yeah.
even question that?
What other Arthur? No.
Buster and DW.
I
Because
also had
it
to
just-
think about it too. I was like, Arthur? What? John Legend? Oh no, the cartoon show.
And then you immediately went into Rocky Horror, and I'm like, Rocky Horror would never be on Arthur.
No, but like.
Not our Arthur reboot. Check out our other podcast.
But like the kind of thing on a kids show where someone like does some obvious hard to cover up lie that like is super elaborate instead of like any normal response.
No human would
Like-
be like, oh, shoo, that's really weird that you're doing this at the exact same time. Like, Emma is smart enough to be like, oh, yeah, you're definitely doing this because I'm into it. And, like, that would have been a more interesting take.
Well, not since she's been lobotomized at the mental
True.
institution.
No, you
It
right.
explains
You right.
everything.
She was lobotomized.
Because she like it's definitely suspicious, and she's like, "Isn't it a little risque?" And he's like, "Oh, I'll just edit it a bit."
Yeah, so Emma is the first of many characters to tell him this is not appropriate and not okay for high
Yeah,
schoolers
this is not
to
appropriate
perform.
for children. And yet he's still like, yeah, but I want to get in Emma's pants. And we're like... Yeah, because also I don't think this is has anything to do with love. Like the better she gets mentally and with her condition, the more likely she is to have sex with Carl. And remember how like a really long time ago when they first started dating, Shu literally came out and was like, "Have you guys had sex?" essentially. And like that's all he cares about is being her first.
It's all about ownership.
Yes.
Which is so disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah,
that he wants to control like every part of her life inside and outside the school.
He's a controlist.
Yes, he is a controlist.
Yeah. So he decides they're going to do Rocky Horror, so he goes into the club. Are we done with that opening scene? I know there was a lot to get through.
I think we're good.
Down to the teacher glare.
We talked about the extra. That's what I really care about.
Just how gross that lie is for her to say, oh, we saw Rocky Horror and that was super fun, for him to go, oh my gosh, that's so crazy, I totally forgot we're also doing Rocky Horror, that's so weird.
He's the worst.
Yeah.
Can I just mention like how much I hate the inner narration of his thoughts?
Yeah.
Oh my god, me too. It's so half-assed.
It's terrible. It's really bad.
And I feel like when he reads the line, how did Rocky Horror become my horror? That's Matthew Morrison reading the line, and that's his honest reaction to the line that he has to read.
Yeah, I think this episode was written in 20 minutes right before like they had to shoot. They were like, fuck, Ryan, did you bring the script? He was like, oh shit. And then they just like wrote it really quick. He like grabbed this random person and was like, write this with me.
Give me a sec.
They were like, oh yeah, what did you do this weekend? Oh, I saw Rocky Horror. Oh, cool. Did you bring a script? Oh, funny enough, we're doing Glee Rocky
We are
Horror.
also doing Rocky Horror for Glee.
Oh, I just remembered.
Okay.
Yeah. So, he comes in to announce that they're doing the Glee Club, which was established earlier to be separate from the Drama Club, but is now just the Drama Club, is doing a no auditions production of the Rocky Horror Show.
Now let's talk casting.
I want
And
to first
Rachel-
talk
Oh, finish.
Brittany's line, because it's Halloween, right?
It's
And
this
Artie
is Glee's
goes-
Halloween episode.
And Artie goes, or was it Artie or Kurt? I think it was Kurt.
Kurt.
Kurt's like, what are you going to be for Halloween? And Brittany goes, I'm going as a peanut allergy.
She says it like sexy.
Yes!
I don't get it.
It's so weird. I love it.
It's so funny.
I love Brittany. Did we ever talk about in the religion episode where they're like, last week we're too sexy, this week we're too religious, we can't win? And she's like, now I know what Miley feels like.
No? Oh my god, I totally missed that.
I was like, we need to acknowledge that line. Oh, Brittany's the best character. Yeah, so she is going as a peanut allergy, which it's a shame we didn't get to see that costume, but
I would love to
We don't
know
get to see any costumes.
Yeah, except
Well,
like
actually, you get to see a lot of costumes.
I guess-
But we don't see Halloween costumes.
yeah, we see one character's actual Halloween costume.
And we see a jack-o'-lantern.
The best
Yeah.
jack-o'-lantern I've ever seen.
It's pretty impressive.
But yeah, so like one of the things that really irked me and always irks me about how they have lessons, quote unquote, and none of that ever adds up to anything they're ever going to perform like competitively. And he's like, yeah, we're going to use this, like we're going to make everyone pay to come see our garbage show, and we're going to put the money toward going to nationals in New York. And I'm like, why would you put the money toward that when you still have to win regionals and sectionals, or the other way around? Like, it doesn't make any sense why you would put it toward nationals.
Also, why are you wasting your time on this show when you could be rehearsing for
That's
nationals?
what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Like, they are definitely not going to do Sweet Transvestite at sectionals.
But they're going to get a limo to drive them there.
yeah.
And Artie's going to have to get a ride from his dad again because he can't get in the limo.
Because no one's willing to lift him.
Yeah, it's a Glee logic.
Yeah, let's talk
Yeah, so
casting.
let's talk casting. So Rachel just claims Brad and Janet for her and Finn, and Will's like, yep.
Makes sense.
It's so
Will
terrible.
is not a teacher. He just does whatever Rachel tells him to do.
And then he wants Kurt because Kurt is gay.
Yep.
Well, wait. Sorry to interrupt, but Rachel is the second of many characters to question Mr. Schuster and go, isn't this inappropriate for us, the children?
Yeah, because she had been like,
Oh,
please
yeah.
be Evita, please be Evita. And then he's like, no, Rocky Heart. And she's like, isn't that a little risque? Like,
Shut up, we're doing it.
and then she's like, okay, if we're doing this, I'm being the lead.
Yeah, Kurt.
And then
he wants Kurt to be Frankenfurter.
And he doesn't for some reason.
I just, it makes me hate Shu for just being like, yeah, Kurt will do it. I had this already planned out. Kurt will do it because he just will. And I'm like, I don't like this. That's just one of many problematic things.
Yeah, it's not a question. It's just like, Kurt, you are Frankenfurter.
And he was like,
no auditioning.
He was like, no.
Well, I had a problem actually with that scene because Kurt's behavior up until this point had been that, number one, he always wants lead roles.
Mhm.
And number two, he's always trying to put himself out there in the most prominent position. And so when he just automatically decided not to do Frankenfurter, I was kind of really surprised, actually, because
he sidelines himself this whole episode.
yeah, it was very, very strange. He's typically, like, his character typically wants to be the center of attention and, you know, like, be the best. And I didn't see that at all from him. It was almost like they were like, we don't know what to do with Kurt right now, but we know that him being a transvestite immediately is, you know, not something that people are going to go for. So let's just, since we don't know what to do with him, we're just going to put him off to the side, and he's not going to have a storyline.
They needed conflict with who was going to do that character, so that's why they withheld it from Kurt. Like, I think that's why they made Kurt not, one of the reasons they made Kurt not do it. Also, want to just do, like, a quick, like, reference the fact that, like, we're using the word transvestite because it's what's used in not only the episode of Glee but also in Rocky Horror Picture Show, but like that language isn't really used anymore, so like that's another like really important note. We'll return to that note a little later, when it's adjusted, but
and
yeah.
I mean, that note is important to bring up because this show inherently brings with it a set of themes that need to be examined with a lot of respect and sensitivity that, in my opinion, should have been 2 episodes. If you're going to do, like, the story here is not, oh, Glee's doing Rocky Horror. The story is a high school production wants to do Rocky Horror. And that's where, like, the drama, the students don't want to, the parents don't want to, the teachers don't want to, this one asshole wants to.
Yeah.
This one asshole educator. Don't forget, the taxpayers' money is paying for him to do this. To harass children and fellow coworkers.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why, because they do mention the culture war at one point, and one of the reasons why I feel like on both sides of the culture war, this is a sticky show to do because of the outdated language, and you're giving that outdated language to children. Mm-hmm. So it's more than just promiscuous and like pearl clutchy to be like, oh, I'm not cool with my child in Rocky Horror. There's a lot of themes and messages that it just would be hard to unpack for a high schooler. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially when that's the age when you're trying to teach them the appropriate behavior and language for things they may not understand.
Right.
Yet.
But I mean, like, in
the
2000...
Madonna episode.
Oh God, triggered. Like in 2010-11, like even the word transvestite was kind of still being used. I think it's just like we hadn't decided on a term collectively for various experiences and identities. So I feel like it's important to note like that time difference too, that like even in the context of the episode, like saying the word transvestite or the word tranny was not necessarily acceptable, but like it was a thing that happened.
I remember being very confused when I don't remember when I first came upon the song sweet transvestite, but sweet transvestite transsexual from Transylvania. Like, I had no concept of what transsexual meant there. It literally, in the context of the musical, it is used as such a vehicle of the other that it's an alien star system, that they come from the planet transsexual in the system of Transylvania. Like, you are literally making transsexuals into aliens.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I don't think Frankenfurter is even a transsexual. I think in the context of the story, he is a transvestite. He cross-dresses, but the status of his genitals is left to the imagination.
True. That's true.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I agree.
And this is why children are just not capable of unpacking it, because we're barely capable of unpacking it.
Exactly. It's making me a little uncomfortable to have to, like, unpack this.
Yeah, I'm like,
right.
everything we say is being recorded.
So Kurt says no, but Mike Chang.
Back to sexy teens.
Mike Chang steps up. Yeah, speaking of sexy teens, gross. Mike Chang steps up and he's like, I think I want to do this. And I'm like, okay, Mike, okay, I see you.
I didn't even know he was in this class.
And they're like, are you sure it's a lead role? And he's like, I'm feeling more confident.
They're not. Who says that line, Cullen?
It's
Tina.
Tina.
I didn't want to spoil Tina time.
I'm sorry. I'm drinking too much and I'm scaring.
No, it's perfect. Okay. All right. We're getting more soju. But we're gonna keep going though.
Yeah.
So, anything else in the casting scene to unpack? Oh, they assigned Sam Rocky Horror. They're like, you're gonna be the creature, and he's like, from the Black Lagoon. And Quinn is like, no, he's like Rocky. He's like super cute. You're perfect for him. And they're like, are you sure, like, you're comfortable with taking your clothes off? And he's like, oh, these abs could cut glass. I have no problem showing off my body. And there's a shot of Finn looking confused,
horrified,
uneasy.
Yeah. So the only other thing I think is that, like, there's like two female characters, I don't even know their names, that Quinn, Santana, Mercedes, Tina, and Brittany are all, like, they're supposed to sort of swap off. And Rachel's like, they do that in the theater. It's better for you to preserve your voices. And Mercedes like, I would like to preserve you in a jar in my basement. And I was like, that's aggressive for Mercedes. Also, let's quickly talk about the blocking of the choir room. Like, they have gone full clicky where, like, Mercedes is just straight up in the middle. No one's really sitting next to her. And it's very uncomfortable.
It is interesting how they paired off all the minorities together. It's
really, really weird. Like, Mercedes is, like, off on her own. She looks real sad. And then, like, other people have sort of, like, clicked together. It's very
all the
strange.
couples are sitting together.
Yeah.
I'm going to interject and say that the citrus soju tastes like flat 7-Up.
Gross.
I'm excited to be part of it. It literally does taste like flat 7-Up.
Flat 7-Up.
All right. Yeah, so they assign roles, and then meanwhile we go to SOOOO's corner on her show after they talk about a Unitarian chimp wedding. I do love their blurbs of local news. And she talks about how we've lost the true meaning of Halloween, which is fear. And people go around trick-or-treating, browbeating hardworking Americans to give them candy. It's a pretty funny SOOOO's corner. And then she's approached by two people that are basically stand-ins for Fox News.
Well, wait. Right before that, in SOOOO's corner, I got called out as both an Ohioan and a Floridian. She literally said something about, like, considering living in Florida, and I was like, wow. Wow. Shots literally fired.
And then the two people talk about how they're like, great news is all about fear. And they're like, there's a story here. People are requesting the stage rights to Rocky Horror. and we want you to do a local story on it. And do you want to talk about the jack-o'-lantern?
Okay, so the jack-o'-lantern... Okay, so first let's talk about the content of what they're saying. Like, they literally go back and forth being like, you can take, you know, a swarm of bees terrorizing a town. You can replace a swarm of bees with anything. And they literally say Mexicans and Mexican terrorists like 5 times. And I'm like, this is too close to home.
Very,
And then-
very. It was crazy weird.
I hate to be like a Debbie Downer in this situation, but it's really conflicting to me when a show owned by Fox tries to lampshade its own tactics by having these kinds of characters come in. Well, first of all, Sue's show is supposed to be like a Bill O'Reilly that they're
Right.
lampooning, which is on the same network. So by mocking themselves, they're normalizing the same kind of content that they're putting out. That like, oh, isn't this funny? She's such a blowhard, and she makes like even like the most innocuous holidays polarizing and political.
It's kind of like, so like there's Fox News, which is sort of its own racist entity, and then there's like the Fox sort of entertainment media groups in which they're much more liberal. And I think it is kind of this weird concept that, like, they're technically under the same umbrella, but executives on one side probably don't even know that Glee is a thing and are actually being made fun of. So it's really strange how that's working out, and I actually didn't even think about that until now.
No, I mean, I agree with the point that, like, them coming in and saying a silly thing, a crazy silly thing like Mexican terrorists. But by saying Mexican terrorists, you're incepting into viewers, like, you know, however old or young, whatever, back in 2011 when this was made, that now the word Mexican terrorist is in my brain. And I laugh at the idea. And it's there now, but, oh, wasn't it funny?
Yeah, it's all problematic.
It's definitely
it all is. It's very problematic.
And here we're getting at the point that we were talking about earlier, way back at the beginning of the episode. It's all about money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Money. De Niro, baby.
Yeah.
So is this surprising? No.
So also real quick note before we get to the jack-o'-lantern, which is also important, the 2 Fox News-ish people are Barry Bostwick and Meatloaf, who were in the original Rocky Horror Picture Show movie. Barry Bostwick played Brad, and Meatloaf played Eddie. Fun fact.
Oh, that's why you were talking about it at the beginning.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
I was like, Meatloaf was in this?
Yes.
Okay, I get it.
I saw Barry Bostwick's name in the credits, and I was like, oh my god, Barry Bostwick is in this? And then, like, they walked into Sue's office, I was like, Meatloaf is in this? That's where they got the idea to do Rocky Horror.
He lost a ton of weight.
Yeah, he kind of did. But they both look pretty old. Like, obviously, like, they're older. But, like, they look definitely their age, and they don't really look a lot like their younger selves. So, Meatloaf definitely looks way different. Barry Bostwick, you can kind of see some of the similar features. But her jack-o'-lantern is perfection.
Oh my gosh, you guys know how hard it is to actually do a jack-o'-lantern like that? Like, I tried to do one of Elsa last year, and it kind of worked, and it kind of didn't.
You have to, like, carve inside, but you still need some pumpkin so that, like, it has depth, and I just can't even imagine.
It's basically a relief sculpture.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more like sculpting than carving.
She's so talented.
But you have to do it backwards. So relief sculpture, like, you have to do a relief sculpture backwards because the negative and positive space are reversed.
Yep.
Now, do you think that's a real pumpkin, or is that a prop pumpkin that they made? Or did some poor PA have to carve an artistic pumpkin?
Some poor PA probably had to, because this is Glee, and Glee punishes people.
Yeah, I don't know, guys. It's probably a real pumpkin, but I'm thinking they probably had, like,
a professional.
2 or 3 of them.
A professional.
They probably had a professional do, like, 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Uncredited, of course. Typical Hollywood.
Yeah, in our Gleeboot, the pumpkin carver will have their own musical number. It'll be This Is Halloween from Nightmare Before Christmas.
Amazing. Another Disney property.
Yes. Yep. Disney, Fox, they're one.
Disney owns everything, guys. Be afraid.
Yeah, so Sue, tell Sue to, like, you should do a story on this, like, go inside and do a story on this high school production that's, like, the progressive agenda has finally come to Lima, Ohio. It has local Emmy written all over it. And so Sue comes to the rehearsal the next day, which they're rehearsing the song Damn It, Janet. Finn is running all over the room.
How is this choreography supposed to work on stage if this is the same choreography that they're quote unquote practicing for the show? This room does not match
That's a great
the stage.
question.
It's Glee. Everything is perfect. It's fine.
I had a similar question / tangent last episode in which Kurt begins a number and then all of a sudden they're all in the auditorium watching him do this incredibly extravagant number, and I'm like, there's no way he did that in the choir room, and it would have looked awful. But also, like, they start off doing like the talking part, right?
Yeah.
It looks awful. It's like terribly what am I talking about? Lip sync. Like, it's terrible. It looks literal like garbage. And I'm like, also the sound quality of the track literally makes it like I can tell they're lip singing. Like, it was literal garbage. I couldn't.
Yeah, it's particularly bad.
I enjoyed the number though.
Oh, I love the song. It's one of my favorite songs.
Yeah, whenever I see someone named Janet, I immediately think, like, damn it, Janet.
To be completely honest, I think Finn was the perfect part for Brad. He is
a good Brad.
Perfect for that part. Like, everyone else, I was like, whatever. But Finn is Brad.
Yeah.
So, Sue interrupts the rehearsal to talk to Will, and is all like, how dare you do this without me? I have script oversight charges. Like, I want to be part of this because I love Rocky Horror, and I have script, like, overview in my contract.
Final script approval, and she's a no to Republic. I literally wrote that down. I was like, I love her. That's great.
So she's going to be involved, and then we cut to Will is talking to Emma, and he's like, I guess Sue just wants to be involved. That's why she's such a bully. And then he's like, leans into Emma, and he's like, I know this may not be appropriate, but, like, I was really hoping, like, you could do the costumes.
He literally says, nobody knows Rocky Horror like you. And I was really confused.
No, I had such a problem with this because it's never explained, like, is she a closet Rocky Horror fan or something?
No,
because as far as we know, she's only seen it one time.
Right? That's what I said. I was like, I'm confused. Did I miss it? Like, she loves Rocky Horror in the safety of her own home, but Carl got her out? Or did Carl introduce her to both experiences, watching it as a live, like recorded performance, and also, like, the movie itself? Like, I was so confused.
Makes no sense at all.
Absolutely no sense.
I didn't catch that, so good on you.
That was one of the things I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, I was like, did I miss something? Should I go back? And then I was like, no, I can't go back. I have to stay confused.
And because he's just like, we'll have to spend a lot of time together. And she's just like, oh, it's a dream come true. Well, not the spending time with you, but, like, doing the costumes. And it's just, he's being so slimy and manipulative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, if he's supposed to be our protagonist, like, there's literally nothing here that's making us like him.
Mm-mm.
Nothing.
Yeah, even by Will's standards. Yeah, so then the next scene in this storyline is, like, you see Sue and her boyfriend Carl John Stamos, and Emma.
Emma. Wait, when does Mike say that he can't do that?
Oh, it's this scene where Mike comes in and he's like, my parents aren't comfortable with me playing a tranny.
Yes. Literally, that's the only word I have written in my notes, and that's how I know, like, it's supposed to happen soon. That's where I wrote...
Emma, the guidance counselor, does not correct his language.
Because, again, I don't think that, like, then it was understood as, like, not even necessarily, like, not that it was a not that it was a positive term, but that like it was shorthand for something that we had decided sort of as a culture at that time that like was a term that we were using. But like now
it
in
was
this,
not. It wasn't antiquated yet.
yes, and now it is, and then it's like, oh, Mike Chang, we thought you were perfect.
Well, I have a question for the group then. What did tranny mean to you? Transgender or
When we were in
transvestite?
high school?
Sure.
I don't think I knew about any of it when I was in high school.
Yeah, I thought it meant transvestite, but it very obviously. So back then I thought transvestite, but now it very obviously rings to me as transsexual, and it's very charged.
Yeah,
it's
like
really
transsexual,
not okay.
transgender. Like it definitely, now we have a totally different language for various identities. And like I think back then, I think hearing the word tranny, I think I would hear that it's just like, this is a shorthand of a word we just use. And I don't think I understood how transvestite was actually used, but I knew that that was just like a term. And I think tranny was just a short.
I mean, it was in Shrek.
Isn't Shrek? I feel like it was a word that if I would have said it, I would have gotten in trouble.
Really?
Because my parents did not like us. They were for being very conservative parents, they're very strict on like language and like degrading terms for people. They were very harsh, like if we ever used them, which I agree with, because those are bad things to teach your children are okay. So
but was this a derogatory term that you knew about? Like, because I don't know if it had a derogatory nature. Like that, like personally, I don't think it was.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily something I would like call my friends, but it was a word that I knew.
Yeah, it's really strange. Like I don't know what it was back then. Because
I don't even think I knew it.
I would say that it was like, okay, maybe it was acceptable to say, but like there are a lot of things that are not acceptable to say, yet Shu lets it happen. So like I can't really use Glee as a gauge for that.
No, but as a show that like is ostensibly from the perspective of a culture that is typically larger and more LGBTQ leaning than others, there's I mean, Ryan Murphy is the one that wrote the word tranny.
So it's
into
not
this episode.
necessarily. It doesn't have quite like the cultural phenomena yet, with especially like being attached to the LGBT plus community. I think that happens a little later probably, but I think that like we're definitely really unpacking this whole word and the experience of it, because honestly I can't remember what it would have been then, and I wish I had the explanation to be able to be like obviously now it's not acceptable to say, and that's a trouble.
Right. And I guess it's worth
like watching
mentioning
this show so far from its creation that it's like, how do you balance these different issues?
Yeah, and I guess it's worth mentioning that I myself am not transgender. I'm a cis gay man, and I've never really lived any other way. So I wonder what other people's experience would be. This is just mine and ours.
Yeah. I just know I definitely cringed when I watched it and he said that. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is embarrassing, but for the sake of trying to not be embarrassed by not knowing certain knowledge and instead fighting towards being non-ignorant, can you explain to me
I support that.
cis gay man?
Oh, sure. So I guess the way that I've heard those terms referred to and the way I choose to use them is cis refers to that my gender is as I was born, and I've accepted that. Gay is that I identify as being attracted to other men who identify as men. And cis gay. And man is, I guess, redundant.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, so like...
Well, I mean, you would need it in there if we didn't know what you were born as.
Correct.
Yes.
I could be a woman.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I
like,
feel informed. Thank you.
Yeah, cisgender is like Gender,
absolutely.
as we understand gender to be a performance and performative outward appearance, matches the same sort of sociocultural acceptance of what the sex also is. It's very complex, but yes.
It is very complex.
It is, and it
Yes.
changes all the time, but it's fun. It's
Identity
always
That's
worth it,
why
though.
I'm always trying to ask questions, because
Yeah.
I feel like it's better to ask questions than to wander around aimlessly.
Honest, 100%.
I
Like,
respect that.
that's what people should do, is like ask questions and have conversations like this to be like, oh, well, what does this word mean to you? Well, what does this word mean to like society? How do we use it? Like, it's so important to do that. I'm always down for this conversation, so hit me up.
All right.
I'm glad we're unpacking this while I'm so drunk.
Best time to do it.
Honestly, though,
I'm
she's
just
right.
but I'm like, words are hard, and like you had that great line, Hannah, and I'm just like, good, because I'm glad, because I'm too drunk to explain anything logically.
So let's get back to Glee.
Yeah, we'll get into the Finn body image stuff after we get through the Will stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mike Chang says
Mike
tranny.
Chang says, and he drops out of the play. His parents aren't comfortable with him doing it.
Which must have been a fight between him and his parents that
Yeah.
Will
Yeah.
started.
So thanks for that, Will. We'll meet Mike Chang's parents later.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
I'm excited.
excited.
Yeah, I don't think I remember meeting them, so this is great.
Yeah, there's no Asian stereotypes involved in it at all.
Oh yeah, what was that last episode where everything was
couples
about dim
therapy?
sum? Yeah,
Yeah.
uncomfy. All right, yeah, Glee.
Yeah. And then, so Emma and Carl are looking at are planning their Rocky Horror trick-or-treating Halloween costumes. There's two adults and they say they're gonna go trick-or-treating, and I'm like,
And she's
I'm
so
so-
excited. I don't understand.
I'm like,
Like it's a
I'm just kidding. It's one of those things, they do this in Hollywood a lot, where they have adults that are like, oh, we're gonna go trick-or-treating. Like, I see that in Halloween media, and I'm always like confused, because I'm like, adults love Halloween still. Like, they dress up, but they don't really go trick-or-treating.
No, they go to
What
other
about, like,
people's houses to
A
drink.
Halloween party. That's all they needed
Exactly.
to say. A Halloween party.
Yeah.
Which would even be more appropriate to
Yes,
wear
there is
Rocky
no
Horror
way
outfits
that them wearing Rocky Horror on the streets of the suburban area with a bunch of little tiny 5-year-old children
Right.
is going to be ever okay.
Which John Stamos even says later, like, "Oh, I do that in the comfort of my own home because I'm freaky like that."
Yes,
but then, what were you doing in the
exactly.
office?
Yeah, so they're looking at their costumes, and Sue just runs in with a knee-jerk reaction. Get your perverted sex games out of this school.
Jane Litch, famous lesbian, playing this staunch, hand-wringing,
Yeah.
waspy woman. I love it.
And they're like, oh no, these are Rocky Horror costumes. And then Sue is all like, oh, well, we're supposed to have Rocky Horror production, but we're going to be canceling because we don't have a Frankenfurter, and my heart's just breaking for these poor kids. So Carl's like, oh, I'll audition, or I'll be in it. And then Will's like, well, they cut to a scene in the choir room, and Will's like, well, I can't just give you a part like I literally did to everyone else in this play.
Right.
It was so
He's been such a
weird.
baby.
Were they making fun of that? Was that a joke? It was a joke, right?
I don't think it was. I think it's
I
Shu
thought
being
that was a
garbage.
Oh
think
my
it's-
god.
Yeah, Shu trying to be gatekeepy because it will mean he's that much
It
closer
would have been
to
so much
Emma.
better as a joke.
So, is this where he comes and he's like, you have a hole and I'm here to fill it? And then
Yeah.
Santana's like, wanky. And then I was like, oh my god, that's where I got that from. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it is John
No, I
Stamos.
can't.
Can you blame her?
And she constantly is like, just like going gaga over him. And it's like, really, it shouldn't be funny because it's a teenager. Yeah, and
Because
an
she's
adult
16.
man. And no one, like, Emma just goes, Santana. And, like, that's it. Not like, this is really inappropriate. Maybe you have some issues that you want to talk about to us. And it's really uncomfy. There's a lot of uncomfy, but yeah, that's just one.
I think the reason it's funny is because he doesn't really reciprocate, whereas Will is like dances around with the teenagers.
True.
And that's why
I
it's
don't know.
uncomfortable.
Like, is everything okay? Was there an earthquake?
That was my ice machine.
Oh my god. I thought there was like an earthquake and stuff was happening.
What?
There were 2 earthquakes when Hannah came to visit us. The 2 are on the 4th of July.
Oh my god.
Yeah. That was
I
crazy.
thought there was one like a couple days ago, but I think I don't
I gotta
know.
take you
I
to
don't
Vegas.
think that was an earthquake.
No, just ice.
Okay.
Just having a good time.
Just making another drink
Don't mind me.
cool. Just making sure.
That was an earthquake.
I'm kidding.
But yeah, no, so like a couple episodes ago, like when we first met Carl, I think it was, like he just kind of like accepted everyone hitting on him, and it was like that's also not okay. Like he should not be encouraging it by like smiling dashingly at everyone, you know?
Yeah.
It's still like it's funny, I think, because it's Santana, but it's also not funny in real life.
Yeah. I would not want to. I'm glad this isn't real life.
Oh my goodness, this would be.
This-
I don't. Ooh.
There's
don't wanna
literally
talk about
no
that.
way that this show exists in a similar or the same world that we actually live in due to the body image issue stuff that we will talk about later. So like
gosh.
we've got a lot to talk about there. But yeah, let's talk about John Stamos's audition.
Yeah, so he sings Hot Patootie. Do you have something to say, Kyle?
This is my least favorite song in the whole musical. Like even in the movie, the one that the character
Yeah.
shows up unannounced. I think there's one throwaway
Yes.
line about his existence, but otherwise he breaks into the movie. He literally like explodes into the movie, and every single character except for what's her face in the golden tuxedo wants him gone. And so I'm just here waiting for this asshole who interrupted my movie to leave. And he sings a song that has nothing to do with anything. He's just singing about how fun things used to be.
Yeah.
Oh, we're
I
gonna
was,
have a
like-
fun time when we talk about favorite and least favorite songs then.
That's not even my least favorite song in this episode. It's just my least
Oh my
favorite song in the
God.
musical.
Okay, spoiler alert. It was my favorite song in this episode because I hated everything else.
Aw.
Fair. I mean, it's John Stamos.
Yeah, also
Uh,
I didn't know John Stamos could sing. Like that was fun.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
So.
Is it actually him?
He
Do we
sings in
confirm
other
that?
things, too.
Yeah,
He
he's
was the
singing
Little Mermaid
Gallivant.
Live, and he's in Gallivant. And...
Yeah.
But he didn't sing on
Uncle
Full
Jesse
House.
did not sing on Full House, no. Or no, yeah, he did. He probably did. Because
Did he have,
He was a-
have a band?
yeah, I was like, he was a music person. Oh my god, I totally forgot that he
Yeah.
was Uncle Jesse. Good time.
All the
They do
times.
some swing dancing to the song, and I actually know some of those moves, so I was like, ooh, I'm cool.
I will say the choreography is probably one of the most
Yeah,
exciting
it was a
in the
lot
whole
of
episode.
fun. I had a lot of fun watching it, and
Yeah.
I sang along. I did not sing along to literally any other song, and I know all of them.
Oh, I sang along too over at the Frankenstein place. That's I
So,
won't spoil.
so Will is sitting there pouting the whole time, and I think that's also why it's fun, because everyone else is having
Yes.
fun, and he's miserable, and you're like, yes,
Yes,
you
finally.
deserve this.
You did this. You did this to yourself.
And then he's like, well, we needed Sue is like, we needed a Frankenfurter, not an Eddie. I eliminated Eddie in my rewrites. And so Will's like, I guess you can't be in it. And then Mercedes is like, I'll be Frankenfurter.
I was shocked.
I was too. I did not remember this happening.
I did, but it is definitely kind of out of character for like church girl Mercedes to be like, I'm gonna be Frankenfurter, but it is like she's also always wants leads, and this is her chance to actually have a lead because Will's not gonna
But-
give it to her.
Yes, and that's what sucks is that like he's not gonna give her a lead from what we understand, and like she has to take this role that like really in reality like I don't think she would actually be comfortable doing. So it's
No, I
kind
don't
of
think so
like
either.
it kind of feels like The
She
show
has
was
to
like,
change it
shit,
so
who are we going to
much.
give this to? And they're like, oh my God, Mercedes is sitting in the back in the choir room. We'll just give it to her. Like, that happened on the day. They didn't know. Like, all of this chaos was like real life. They didn't know what they were doing.
Oh, we can't give it to Artie. He's
You
already
guys
the
are like
wheelchair guy.
saying that Mercedes like takes the role, but I distinctly remember her just like timidly standing up and
Yes.
asking Mr. Shu, please, Mr. Shu, can I have the role? And if she actually really wanted the role, I don't think that's how Mercedes would approach it at all.
I completely agree with you. I'm not even that familiar with Mercedes, but it sucks that the only person of color in that room besides the Asians has to wait until every other person has tried, and there's been a story reason for them not to be able to do it, for her to feel enough agency to ask if she can do it.
Very
she was
disconcerting,
really timid. That's what, like, so, like, she, like, in that choir room scene that I was telling you guys about, how, like, they were all really clicked away from each other, and she was off by herself. Like, it kind of felt like there was something going on with Mercedes off camera that Glee just wasn't talking about, and this was also a result of that. Like, she was having a timid moment.
I mean, she bites Rachel's head off when she's like, it'll preserve your voices.
This is one of those moments where, like, Glee characters only exist. It's a separate world every single episode. It's like the Twilight Zone. It's like a brand new world, and the characters restart, and sometimes they're way different.
Yeah, it just feels very different to what we've already known, especially like for a lot of the characters, like Kurt, Mercedes. Excuse me.
What if, because it starts on science fiction, whatever it is, the opening
double
song,
feature, yeah,
and they literally open it as like the movie does? What if this isn't even actually real life? This is just a movie, and none of this matters.
Whoa.
Uh-oh, I've had too much Jameson. Yeah, I mean, I also, I'd give Glee some credit sometimes, and they don't deserve it.
Yeah, hot patootie. Boo.
Hot patootie. Meh.
So then it cuts to rehearsal, and they're rehearsing Sweet Transvestite from Sensational Transylvania.
I'm just gonna say this song literally doesn't work outside of the context of the movie or the play. And
thank you.
It also really doesn't work with Mercedes doing it. Even though I think she sounds amazing, it just doesn't work.
So I gotta say, it's interesting. My sister performed in this musical, Rocky Horror, and in her production, they had a female play Frankenfurter, and they didn't change anything about what the lines they said, because frankly, the character of Frankenfurter is gender fluid with some of the things that they do throughout the musical. So it didn't really affect my viewing experience when I watched it with my sister's production. But Mercedes and the way she's dressed and the way she's acting has nothing to do with this musical or Frankenfurter. She might as well just be doing karaoke.
I feel like if we watched their whole production, it would make sense. And I would be like, yeah. But because it's such a limited view of her role, I'm like, I don't agree with this.
Yeah, and this is supposed to be... Is this the dress rehearsal, or is this just a normal rehearsal?
Because...
No, this is... Oh, wait, is this the dress? I don't even remember.
I mean, they're on stage. Right. You don't typically go on stage until, it's the dress rehearsal.
Well,
well then,
this school is so fucking poor, but they have a fog machine. And they have an elevator that goes up and down. Theater. They have all of these great props that either the drama club made for free and those people didn't get any credit, or this is a movie and this is not their real life.
Yeah, the props are insane. Yeah, unless the school had done a production of Frankenstein last year that no one talked about, and they just had these leftover props. Yeah, and then Carl breaks in afterwards, and he's like, "I'm feeling my entrance in this scene," and Will is all like,
God.
"Carl, you're supposed to be in the next scene." And I'd also could think of was, "Carl, we don't kill people." And Emma's like, such good impulses. So we're supposed to, I guess, side with Will, but we're...
Okay, can I just ask a question here? Why does Emma, the costume designer, have any other input into, like, the production of this play?
Yeah, why is she
Yes,
sitting
Because
next to
she
the
was
director?
like, I want you to sit right here next to me where I can watch you. That was off camera.
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
Watch your
I only
heave.
side with Shu in the fact that he's 100% right in that he missed
There were a couple of basic bitches.
his cue. He overshot his cue, and he ruined part of the set to do it, and like that's not professional.
Yeah.
Aside
not
from
cool.
that, literally, I don't care. Carl can do what he wants because he's obviously just fucking with Shu, and I'm here for it.
Is this the same moment where poor Sam runs out on stage in his like Speedo and says, "I feel a little uncomfortable," and they're like, "Shut up! We're doing a dress
Oh
rehearsal."
my goodness, I felt so bad for him. Oh my goodness. Okay, Alyssa's Corner, guys. Okay, so when I was in high school, I was part of a musical, and this literally happened to me, except maybe with a little bit more dire circumstances, in which I broke my foot in the middle of rehearsal, and I was like, "Oh, ow, I can't walk." And the director, who was our history professor, literally yells to, like,
boy.
I don't know, the stage hands, "Get her off the stage!" I was pissed. I was so
Jeez.
pissed. Oh my gosh. And he's...
You were a prop.
Yes, I was! And I was not happy, obviously. But this is kind of a real thing, I think. Because it happened to me.
I was really confused because the transition into Alyssa's Corner was from when Sam was in his underwear, and I thought you were going to talk about you being in your underwear on stage.
No!
No, literally, that's what I was waiting for, and then I was like, oh no, it's not coming. I just misunderstood everything. Cool.
Sorry. I don't have a story about that.
Finn's body image objectification and all of that subplot rung like surprisingly, it resonated with me on a surprising level. We had to do Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat in my high school, and almost everybody on stage is topless, and I wasn't comfortable doing that, so it was really tough for me.
Ooh, we'll get into that storyline.
Oh yeah, I have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we have thoughts.
Jumping ahead here.
So then Will has Emma come into this classroom, and she's like, "Oh, you wanted to see me?" And he's
This
like,
dim classroom.
God.
It is dim.
"It's dim," and he's all like, "Oh, we have a problem. It's Carl. He said some of these roles are just inappropriate for children, and like Sam is so uncomfortable." And Emma's playing along, I think, thinking he's gonna cancel the musical.
Yep.
And then he's like, "Oh no, I think I'm gonna play Rocky."
Oh my god.
And he's like, "We need to practice. We need to practice." And
No. I think his exact words were something like, "I want to rehearse this. Can you help me?"
No, I need to have touch me down by rehearsal tomorrow. Can you help me? That's almost like
Yes.
verbatim what he says.
Yeah.
And
a song that another character sings. Not him. He doesn't have to.
The more I think about this, the more uncomfortable it makes me because, like, it's played for romance and comedy, but I have to imagine that statistically, this exact move, verbatim, word for word, has been used by men to trick women into being into a compromising situation.
Okay. So, I'm having literally, my mind is melting. So, Emma is rehearsing this with him, right? She's supposed to be playing the Janet character in this moment. But Rachel is playing Janet in the actual show, and if he's Rocky, that means he's gonna do this with Rachel, and somehow he's okay with that.
I didn't think about that.
Rachel, who had a crush on him
Emma
once.
say that? She was gonna be like, oh my god, I'm having a meltdown. I'm just realizing this.
Yeah. He's going to be doing that with Rachel, who had a crush on him and went to his house once unannounced.
And he thinks that's 100%
And Emma
okay.
doesn't say anything about it. That's because the show in this moment exists in a bubble in which just like Shu and Emma are the only two characters, and this song was only meant to be for them. And the rest of the script, like the writers just don't think about the actual logic of that. And now I literally am just, I'm having a meltdown.
Oh my god, that makes me sick.
There's some real confusing diegetic issues with Britney and Santana being there as well. Sorry, I have a lot to say.
Yes.
Where like they're singing as part of what the actual song is, being like, you mean she, and then she's like, yeah, like that sort of commentary about what they're listening to. Britney and Santana don't have the context of the Emma-Will relationship to know that Emma's actually a virgin, or that we know. So, like, it doesn't make sense. And then also, their outside area of the school literally looks like the same crappy cardboard that they did on stage like 5 minutes ago. So I have a lot. That's what I have to say about that. But yeah, I had a full-on meltdown and then shifted into logical thought.
Something about
That's horrific.
Matthew Morrison's shirtless body just made me very uncomfortable.
You know what?
He was still wearing a tie.
I think that's what made me uncomfortable.
Yeah, he looked like a Chippendale.
How
was Chippendale cancer?
I had I don't think I would have been half as uncomfortable as I was if the tie was just gone.
Well,
I mean, it still would have
skinnier.
been uncomfortable, but just the tie made it like that much more uncomfortable.
So
and she cups his peck at the end of the song, and I'm like,
so like
don't touch him.
they could have, like, what part of Touch Me did he have to get down? Like, literally they could have just sang the song together and not done anything, and that would have been more appropriate. But also, like, during the
Yeah, why would Emma know the choreography?
Yeah, like, again, this is in a classroom that looks nothing like the actual stage. So, like, this choreography is garbage. Also, they just, like, got germs all over that desk, and that's disgusting. And
okay, this is your coronavirus reaction.
True. Yeah, we are currently all self-quarantined. That's fun. But yeah.
Every time I watch anything, I'm like, you have to be 6 feet away from each other!
Wash your hands!
What are you doing?
And then last thing that I have to say is I don't like the leaning over the camera shots that happen.
Oh god!
Especially Shu, but also
when he's like
children.
Creature of the Night, that is my night terror. that is like my nightmare paralysis demon leaning over me. Creature of the Night. I'm like, you are a creature of the night.
And you can feel his tie hitting you in the face.
It's like the power of Christ compels you, like, away from me.
I'm pretty sure that happens in the movie. That's what
Yes.
they're referencing. But the implication in the movie is that, like, they're all pulling a train on her. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, you're right. That's true. Like, I got the reference, but I didn't. Again, this is that weird logic where if you think about it, where is she, like, again, or is this a dream sequence? Like, because all of the kids are in character.
It's a symptom of the larger problem, which is this show that it wants to exist in this, like, magical world between things not mattering and things really mattering.
That's a really great way to put it. Also, I can't believe you said running a train on her. I die.
So
no, because I'm like, that's kind of what's happening. It's awful.
It's horrific.
Yeah.
Not that being promiscuous is intrinsically horrific. I'm not trying to slut shame here. It's just in the context of the show, having Emma be into that is so weird, let alone the children being participants.
Ew.
Also, I think this whole number, I think the whole episode was built around this number because of Emma's voice sounding so much like Susan Sarandon in the movie.
She sounds exactly like Susan
weird
Sarandon.
How much she sounds like her. So yeah, I definitely think that's where they started and they rode backwards.
Side comment, I love Susan Sarandon. I think she's amazing.
100%.
Oh, she's great.
I still can't believe you haven't seen Rocky Horror yet.
Well, Watching this
yourself.
episode makes me want to, because I'm like, I need to know what inspired this crime.
We should watch
The first 2 acts are amazing.
it.
The end is bananas and bizarre and weird.
We should definitely watch it.
Well, we're quarantined.
Yes, while we're quarantined.
The perfect
Yeah, and bring
quarantine
toast.
movie.
Well, we can just make toast.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
bring it from the kitchen to the living room.
So touch me happens.
No one's happy.
It just,
I'm not happy. You're not happy. We're all not. Emma's not happy because Emma just runs off, leaving her blouse that she took off. And I'm like, that was a good blouse. Like, Will, you robbed Emma of that nice blouse.
That was a sweater.
Or it was a
Yeah,
thing. It was a top. It was nice. It went well with her outfit. Yeah.
I have
So
a lot of
then
all caps notes coming up, so get ready.
Oh boy.
So we go back to that scene at the beginning, right? This is the opening number, and then where Carl interrupts.
Okay, can I just say that I forgot that we had went back in time, and then when we were in the regular timeline or whatever, I was totally torn out of the story. Again.
Yes, that's my point.
Again.
It adds nothing.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. We shouldn't have done that at all.
Yeah, Carl comes in. Are you making moves with my woman? And he's like, "Oh, does this mean you're quitting the show?" And he's like, because he's like, "I don't know what you're talking." Will's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And Carl's like, "Oh, well, I do, because me and Emma have a total honesty policy, something that you wouldn't know about." And then he's like, "I actually care." Carl says that he actually cares about the arts. He doesn't just use them to pick up other guys' chicks. And it cuts to all the kids just like uncomfortably realizing that that's exactly what he's doing and why he's having them do this.
And he doesn't apologize.
No.
He's just like, yeah, that's me. That's who I am. I'm not like proud of it, but I'm not ashamed either.
It's true. He's like, I'm just gonna stay the same.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, so watch out. Hold on to your girlfriends, guys.
I think this is one of the problems with Glee. It's that once the characters learn the lessons, so it's like, okay, I learned a lesson, therefore the mistake I made was not as bad. That's not how it works.
I solved the problem that I created. Aren't I a hero?
No, not good.
Yeah.
So, because of what goes on in the Finn storyline, Will is called into Figgins' office, and Figgins is like, your reasons for doing this production are murky to me. I can't protect you if this goes wrong. And so Will's already starting to second guess his awful decision making. And then he is in his office working on Rocky Horror, and Becky comes in dressed as Sue, doing trick-or-treating. Of course, he doesn't have candy.
Halloween costume.
As Sue. And so he doesn't have candy.
Effectively reminding me that it's Halloween.
Right,
Yes,
exactly.
yeah.
Because I've forgotten so many times.
It is a really cute costume, though.
It is. And Will, of course, doesn't have candy because he's the worst. And
he quote-unquote forgot. Yeah, right.
I forgot.
He wouldn't have bought candy anyway.
No, he wouldn't have.
Yeah, and then he's like, "Oh, I've been working on Rocky Horror," and Becky's like, "Rocky Horror is an abomination." That's what Sue says. And he's like, "What?" And so she just randomly decides to be like, "Oh, she says it on her tape. I'll show you."
Yes, let me show you.
Okay, Becky would not do that. Becky is loyal to Sue, so like, it's literally, it's
It makes no sense.
I guess Sue-
Everyone is out of character in this episode.
device. It's
Oh, I interpreted that as Sue assigning her to this mission to like, sneakily give him access to this
that's
tape.
No,
interesting. That
because
does
she
normally happen, but because of the way she reacts to it, like
She wants
ends up,
the Emmy.
Yeah.
So she would never want him to see it.
because he ends up
It's true.
changing
That's
his
true.
mind. Like what other possibility would there have been other than him to like? I guess like he could have kept fighting after he saw it, but then like I don't know. It just none of it seemed logical.
No, you're right. It literally serves as like, wow, if even Sue thinks this is a bad idea, then I gotta
Right,
stop.
exactly.
Mhm.
That like,
Mhm.
and then you're also being like, wow, Sue must be a terrible person for thinking or like if Sue's such a terrible person and she even thinks this is like bad, which is like also very contradictory because like Sue has these moments where she's actually like really poignant and knows what she's talking about.
Which I feel like this tape was actually kind of one of them, where she was like, if people's sole purpose of making art is pushing boundaries, it's usually bad art. And I'm like, oh, like this episode of Glee that I'm watching.
Yeah.
Like most of the episodes of Glee we've watched.
Like, honestly, she was making
The
some really good points.
The hubris of Ryan Murphy right now.
I'm telling you.
No, you're right.
Everyone is out of character. It's so
Yeah.
weird. This episode is like a completely different zone.
Ryan Murphy forgot that he was supposed to write the episode and then wrote it on the day.
On the bus
Like
ride
all
over.
of the actors are sitting there in makeup, like about to go on, and he's like scribbling things down, typing furiously in final draft.
Copy pasting things from the Rocky Horror
The only
script.
thing he took out of this was the actual record scratch that he wanted to put in the first scene. Everything else was unedited.
Yeah. So he sees that Sue is like, hey, this is a bad idea. We shouldn't make the children fight the culture war for us on the taxpayers' dime. And he's like, Sue, you set me up for that. And she's like, oh, root through anyone's personal belongings lately? And she's like, yeah, it's a bad idea. Like, she has some really good points on how it's like, he's like, well, kids have access to this kind of material. And she's like, don't lead them to it.
Right. One of the things that you said about like you mentioned how she said like we shouldn't make kids fight the culture war for us, kind of brings back to like the Mike Chang thing where like his parents seemed, from what we understand, upset that he was doing this, probably because they didn't think it was appropriate. And so like he was probably put in the middle of this like, well, I want to do this thing. So like that actually, if that idea of like the culture war and not making kids fight it was a more prominent idea in this episode, like that scene would have been really interesting to have, like Mike having to fight his parents being like, no, I want to do this, and have him have to learn that like, yeah, but like maybe you're not old enough to comprehend these different ideas and these themes.
I 100% agree with you, because I feel like the few times that I came into conflict with my parents over like my identity was wherein they were afraid of me putting myself out there for a fear of my safety. That it's like, it doesn't matter how proud and confident you feel, there are bigots and monsters out there that will never accept you. And so it's our responsibility as parents to tell you, we love you and we accept you, and don't go around parading that like it's like on your sleeve. You got to keep it a little secret. So that would have been an amazing mine to, or an amazing vein to mine.
And like I know like Kurt and his dad have that kind of concept that like, so like if Kurt had decided he wanted to do Frankenfurter, like that would have been a fantastic scene.
A better episode.
It would have been actually in character.
It would have been in character. Whoa. It would have been, like you said, like a really great thing to mine up these different ideas and have these conversations. But yeah,
because I can tell you, like, from firsthand experience, if my high school decided to do Rocky Horror, I would be so conflicted because I wanted to do musical theater. I did musical theater all throughout high school, but I am so uncomfortable with this play on so many levels.
Oh yeah, I've got
It is a very uncomfortable play. Let's be real.
Yeah,
it's uncomfortable.
But it's supposed to be in like a really like controversial, antagonistic way. It's like, ooh, isn't this taboo?
Yes.
Aren't you uncomfortable right now? Yes.
One of the points really early on when she was like, yeah, we're doing Rocky Horror, and people were like, oh, isn't this a bit much? Kurt literally said a school in Texas was banned from doing Rent, and like they couldn't even get away like would do that. But the big difference between Rent and Rocky Horror is like Rent isn't meant to push boundaries just to push boundaries. Like Rent is supposed to be a story about community, about love, about struggle, about a lot of different themes. and it also happens
in a grounded, realistic
and it also
setting,
happens
too.
to push boundaries because it has a wider concept of sexuality and identity and that kind of stuff. So like that idea of like, yeah, like they point out all these different interesting themes, but they never really dig into them enough to make them cohesive and to make sense. Like it kind of felt thrown away, being like, yeah, we're never gonna get away with doing Rocky Horror because this school in Texas couldn't even do Rent, and it's like they're two very different shows with very different purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and by doing Rocky Horror, by titling it the Rocky Horror Glee Show, we obviously come into it, with like preconceived notions and controversy of like, oh, Rocky Horror, I know what that means. We'll see what they do because this is on TV. We'll see how far they push that envelope.
So,
but it's controversy for the sake of controversy. It feels flat and inauthentic. I don't respond to it in this day and age. Maybe it worked in the 70s when it was written and when it came out. But, I mean, I don't mean to get up on our like own high horse, but we're a post-Obama era America. We're ready for a little more subtlety in our art.
But we weren't when this first came out.
Yeah.
Correct. This is a stepping stone. I fully agree that without this show, without this musical and movie, we wouldn't have the kind of progressive media that we have today.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have been...
I'm still uncomfortable.
That would have been another interesting theme, because like I think a couple episodes, Shu had a lesson that was about something, because if it didn't exist, we wouldn't have certain media that we have now, or something like that. And like that...
Yeah, like Hedwig and the Angry Inch, we probably wouldn't have if not for Rocky Horror.
Like if that was actually another theme of this episode, that like we are paying tribute to this musical because it gave us some of the things we have today. Like, again, that's another theme that would have made sense, would have helped people stay in character, and like would have been something interesting even along the lines of like what we were talking about. Like, is there a limitation to what children should be exposed to and how they should express themselves? These kind of themes, like, I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. They seem more concerned with presenting that they've thought of those themes than actually engaging 100%. With them.
And I blame Shu.
The only person in character in this episode is Shu.
Exactly. He is very in character, like too in character, I would say.
Yes.
I find it hard to believe this entire episode made it to air.
I'm surprised a lot of the episodes made it to air.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah.
Power of Madonna is definitely one of them.
Yeah. An interesting food for thought. Speaking of musicals that Rocky Horror paved the way for. I'm struggling. It's fine. Riverdale their musical episode this season is Kinky Boots.
Oh, okay. Yeah, again, like...
Yeah. Paved the way.
A musical
Kinky Boots is a little bit more grounded, but it does have some of the same themes of, like, expression, for sure.
Yeah.
And alien transvestites?
No, none of those. I think it's supposed to be based in, like... Like a blue collar town in England. I think is like at least where the movie was set. I don't know about the actual play.
I think I have seen Kinky Boots.
The movie's really good. I've listened to the soundtrack of the musical, but the movie's really good. Haven't seen the actual musical. Would love to see it. Would have killed to see Brennan Urie in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tangents.
Yeah. So we love tangents here. So Will decides to cancel Rocky Horror, and he talks to Emma, and he's like, I'm going to cancel the production, and if I really loved you, I'd be happy I'd be willing to let you be happy with Carl. And it's like, yeah, gross. And then he decides to cancel the production, and he says,
hold on, is this the same episode that Emma... no, not the same episode. The same scene that Emma says, love makes you do crazy things.
Yeah.
Ew, I zoned out of that. I hate that.
No, honestly, I was so
That's excusing his behavior.
Yes, it is.
Ew.
There is no way that he actually loves her. Absolutely none.
He wants to control her.
None.
He wants to possess
Yes, it's
her.
all about control and ownership. and disgusting. It's gross. I was so put off.
Yeah. It's nice that the whole love makes you do insane, criminal, illegal things kind of died with the Me Too movement.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hopefully
and
it's in
Crazy
the process of
Ex-Girlfriend really
dying.
Yeah, hopefully it's in our
Crazy
rearview
Ex-Girlfriend really dissected it to the point where, like, that was like the whole point of the show, was dissecting like what's okay to do when you're in love, and like how a
Right.
lot of those things that rom-coms say are okay are actually really unsettling and creepy in
Yeah.
real life.
Don't do it.
It's like that movie. It's like that movie that's out right now, The Invisible Man.
Yes.
In another decade, it would be a
Yeah.
romance
Oh
I bet you.
of like the Invisible X winning his
No, no.
ex
Yes.
back by being
I bet you
invisible.
that was the original draft, and then Me Too happened, and they're like, "Shit, dude, no one's gonna go for this anymore."
We've already filmed.
It's like,
half
it's
of it.
fine. Elizabeth Moss can do anything.
no! Get another editor.
She sure can.
So it's okay.
Sorry.
No, that's my role here. It's just occasionally bringing it back to Glee. So he canceled the production, and he says, "But we're gonna put it on for ourselves." And
And everyone's so happy about that. And I'm like, why wouldn't you be furious being like, we did all this fucking work and we're not going to get money to go to nationals? Also, we're not going to use any of these numbers at nationals or like they're for sure not going to do Sweet Transvestite competitively. Like they just wasted all their time.
The music the band had to rehearse.
Honestly, it's not even like about the money. When you rehearse something for like weeks and weeks and weeks,
Right.
it's about putting it on for an audience,
Well,
whether or
I
not
mean,
you get money.
I have a
And
question.
every time you
It's mentally taxing.
Yeah.
yes, well, and then he's like, we're gonna put it on for ourselves, and I'm like, you've literally been doing that for the entire time you've been rehearsing.
Right. What were the rest of the numbers, Shu? Were there people watching? Was Jacob Ben Israel sitting there? No. Like, that was for them. Also, the timeline. How long were
Oh.
they actually rehearsing? It was 4 days, right?
Don't get me started on Glee and musical timelines, because
Like a week.
You can make a musical in 4 days,
Oh.
Cullen. Live
because
with it.
musical rehearsals take like at the very least a
At
month.
the very least, weeks.
But like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because these are children with full-time schedules, most of which have extracurriculars and homework,
Other than
but they
Glee,
somehow make time. Yeah, but they somehow make time for this extracurricular thing.
Mhm.
it's like this
But
would
they
take
never go to
all
classes.
semester.
That's the thing.
Never any other classes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it would take all semester to put on a musical, and I'd be so pissed if it was if it was Rocky Horror just because the teacher was horny for the guidance counselor, and then we didn't have
I
to.
would get that motherfucker fired. That's what my first step would be.
Yeah, I'd be so mad. So
He
this
pitched doing touch me with a student.
Oh.
Yeah, remember in the first episode where Rachel gets someone fired for groping a student?
This is literally
and then the
more
principal brought them back into the school.
This is amazing because if you think about the first episode and that sort of like crux of Glee Club being what it is now, none of these storylines make sense because all of these people should be fired based on that same logic. Again, this is Twilight Zone, but Glee. Everything is a new world. The characters reset.
Because of the time warp. They sing time warp at the end.
Oh.
And it happens.
I hate that song.
And it also makes no sense. What version of Time Warp are they singing where all the characters are on stage and Brad gets to take over for Riff Raff's lines?
I don't think
Is it the curtain call?
maybe. We don't
No
know. There's
idea.
no audience.
Because they all collapse on the ground, kind of like, isn't it at the end of the movie they're on the ground?
No, it's worse than that.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't even really remember the end of the movie because I normally like shut it off at a certain point.
No, I wrote down on my list of ways Mr. Schuster's a creep, and at the very bottom I said he realizes he was wrong and gets rewarded with a private performance of Rocky Horror performed by his cabal of sexy children.
Oh! Yeah. Yeah, that's accurate.
Like, dance for me, children.
Gross, but accurate.
Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have these children perform Rocky Horror, but then at the last second, I'm just gonna make it a private performance for me.
That's even.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, the kids only kind of know that like it got canceled because it was inappropriate. So like,
Yeah.
gross.
yeah.
No, but once again, this is a problem that he caused, and he doesn't get punished. In fact, he gets rewarded at the end of it by his squeeze, saying like, "Wow, you've really matured."
It's like, have you taken 7 steps back?
Mm-mm.
It literally took every single character in the entire show. There's no characters left to tell him this is a bad idea for him to decide maybe this is a bad idea.
But he made the decision that it was a bad idea. Therefore,
And that's the
everything's
point.
okay, right?
Yep.
Exactly. Isn't he a nice guy?
Oh my
He's
Didn't
such
he
a
realize
nice guy.
he realized it was a bad idea to stalk you, so you should date him since he realized that.
Oh my goodness. And that is all that any woman is ever looking for.
Exactly.
Yeah, Mr. Schuster is a incel.
Is everyone okay with some quick Joker spoilers?
I loved it.
I will literally wait. Are we talking about the movie Joker?
Yeah.
I will literally never see it. Go ahead.
Oh,
For listeners, if you plan on watching Joker and you have not, these are spoilers.
This is spoilers. There's this scene where this woman that he's stalking is suddenly like, "Oh, I noticed you following me," and then she becomes like his girlfriend, and I'm like, no woman would ever do that. This makes no sense.
No,
That's why I will not watch that movie.
He realizes the audience realizes that this was just a fantasy and this woman wasn't following him around. So then I'm like, oh, this movie makes so much more sense now because she's freaked out that he's stalking her. But at first she's like, oh, I'm into this. And I'm like, what? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, the way Todd Phillips handles that reveal is so good.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It is.
It is. It's got
it.
some weird parts. I don't see why he had to put his fingers in a child's mouth, but he got an Oscar, so who am I to judge?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, so that is the Will plot. Let's get into the Finn plot. It's much shorter. Yeah.
Here we go.
It's sad.
It is. It's so questionable.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. You know how I said I had all caps notes? Those all caps notes are for this storyline. So it's toward the end, but I think I have lots of all caps notes throughout, so I'm ready.
Let's go.
So Finn starts to feel uncomfortable, and when Rachel's like, we do the whole scene in our underwear, he's like, what? I'm not comfortable with that. And
he delivers a really like Seventh Heaven style like Scrubs line where he's like, I know I'm really like buff and I'm part of the football team and I'm supposed to be manly or whatever, but I guess I feel insecure about my body.
It was literally like after school special.
Yeah.
And Rachel does her best. She's like, well, I don't look like Britney or Santana, but you still think I'm hot. And so she's like, it'll be fine. So that was like the least problematic scene, I think.
I'm sorry. I take it like a lot of umbrage with the way that she shows quote unquote support for her friend in distress there.
I agree. Like, she literally like is just like taking over the whole scene, and then he's like, yeah, I actually feel uncomfortable and I'm opening up to you about like these issues I'm having. And then she's like, okay, well, like, here's
why your problems don't matter and you're stupid for having them.
She literally is like, oh, well, you think I'm hot, so then like your body image issues don't matter. And then she literally goes right back into rehearsal.
Yeah,
and I was like,
okay, you're all fixed, right? Everything's better.
Okay, I'm not saying that this isn't a problem, but I think it fits with her character.
Yeah, that's why I was like, this is as caring as Rachel can be. Like, for Rachel, that's like she's taking time from rehearsal and being like...
Well, that's a shame, because Finn needs emotional support in that moment and doesn't know how to ask for it, and in fact gets that far and is like just ignored.
I honestly do not think that Rachel would be able to connect with his like insecurities without somehow making it about her. So I feel like this fits for her.
I also feel like she would probably be able to get more on his level because of like the way she's always been treated at school. Like it kind of felt like she could definitely get deeper, and I was like, that's it. Okay, the scene's over. She's done.
Yeah, how can she not have empathy for body issues?
Like yeah, like she's I don't know. She was bullied so much that it was kind of like I kind of wish she would have like obviously she would have made it about herself, but like she probably had stories to open up about.
There could have been a better way the scene was written.
Yes.
Yeah.
There could have been a better way this whole episode was just not written.
And I admit, you're all right that it's true to her character. She's not the most emotionally available person.
No, she's
Yeah.
not. Yeah. So then Finn is talking with Sam and Artie, and they're talking. Sam's talking about how much he eats, and he's like, "There's no carpool lane to sexy. Like, this is how I
It's
look."
literal locker room talk.
Yeah.
It's thank you very much. It's like lampshading locker room talk, but they're literally locker room talking. They're not talking about girls' bodies necessarily, but it's locker room
but
talk.
they
They
are.
So
Yeah.
to preface this scene at rehearsal, Santana's like, "I can't wait till Finn takes his top off and we see the hot mess underneath." And Rachel's like, "That's incredibly rude." And Quinn is like, "Is it? Guys talk about us all the time." And then Will, instead of being like, "Well, that's not appropriate, and in my classroom, we're not going to talk about each other's bodies," and because Santana's like, "Artie just asked me about the ostrich eggs in my bra."
Oh my
Which I
god!
was
Okay, yeah,
so
Artie is
angry
a
about.
monster.
Artie's a monster.
Artie's
Artie is
a
a monster,
terrible
and he gets
person.
away with it.
Stu just
dislike
And
looks
Frank
at
him.
Artie.
laughs.
Shu just like looks at Artie like, what? And then it cuts away. And that's it. Like, okay, there's so much to unpack here. Like, I literally wrote, wow, Glee's not handling any of this at all very well at all. But no, like Shu doesn't stop anyone from saying the rude things. Like, even at the very beginning, like right when Santana or whoever says it, Brittany says, like, I can't wait to see the hot mess. Like, Shu should have been like, don't ever say that. Like, just stop. But Rachel had
Yeah,
to
like,
stand up for Finn.
whoa! Hold the phone, principal's office. You and me right now. We're nipping this in the bud.
Because if you
And,
need actors to act, you need it to be a safe space, and that's literally not the definition of a safe space if people are making fun of your body.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
Yeah,
it's
and
not.
The quote is, Artie asked me if he could make a gigantic omelet when I was done with the ostrich eggs I have in my bra. And it's played for a joke.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be hilarious, but like that's off screen. Like if we had actually heard him say that, that would not be a joke. That would be sexual harassment. But because
It's
Santana
traumatic
is the
to
one who
hear.
says it, it becomes the joke because Artie hasn't actually said it on camera. But
You're
also
so
like
right.
Rachel stands up for Finn, but also like actual Rachel probably would have like taken this right to the principal's office, or like she would have done something more Rachel to stop it. But like
I was really looking forward to this specific interaction, our discussion about it, because I feel like it's really polarizing. There are certain rooms where this would split the room between like, yeah, she should totally have full agency to objectify men, and the other half of the room would say, no, we're trying to get to a point where no one objectifies anyone, so she shouldn't.
yeah, because like so Tina is one who's like oh she like Quinn kind of has a point, and I'm like yeah she kind of does, but also like this whole point is moot, that like we are talking about something that is way more complex, and like also like this is not written by people who like women, so like
Oh my
women
goodness.
are vilified.
Yeah, we're gonna get more into
women
that.
are vilified for actually doing the same thing that men do to women, and then when Artie is called out for doing it, nothing happens to him, but women are still the villain in this because they're making fun of Finn. They're putting him down. So like it's way more complex, and it's just totally just baselined.
I respect you all so much for bringing that up, because that is what I wrote down and was worried that I would have to be the asshole to bring up, because everything that the women say in this show is moot because they are being written by men. Every quote-unquote argument that they're bringing to the table is Ryan Murphy's words. And so I want to agree with them, but it's hard because at the end of the day, all their words are written by men.
yeah, it's
And there's no nuance.
Glee
No.
definitely has This is an understatement. Glee definitely has issues with women. Just
It hates them.
it really does.
Glee hates women.
There's
It's
later
awful.
a joke in a later season where Tina is like hashtag Glee hates girls. It's like so funny because it's like kind of real. So I can't wait till we reach that episode in our long journey.
Well, honestly, like
so
this is
many
the
episodes.
entire time I was watching this episode, like I was disgusted by Mr. Shu. But the whole time the subplot of Finn and his body issues came up, I was so upset because it could have been a really good storyline, but instead they used Finn's body issues to like push women's body issues out of the door. Like it's just
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
There's an element where you think privately while watching this, oh, poor beautiful white men. It must be so hard to be concerned that your abs don't look good. But there's another part of you that gets in front of that and is like, whoa, hey, buddy, that's a really uncool thing to think. Body issues are all, like, they go both ways.
And there are actual lines. Like, it's coming up. We're going to talk about them.
So
oh, God, poor Sam.
the locker room scene. So we're there.
Artie doubles down.
Artie says that because of internet porn, women don't have to go to the video store, and now their brain chemistry is more like men's.
What the fuck
Which
argument is
And
that?
so now they expect
Literally
men
none.
to be hot. And
It's so, like, phrenology based.
there's like
Yeah.
5 ways to unpack this, because first it's implying that if men's brains are altered by porn, that is their right, and men should be watching porn, but women shouldn't. There's this implication there. There's this implication that before there were no standards for men and that men shouldn't have standards, but these standards for women are normal and natural and should be there.
Oh my God.
Mhm,
Yes.
mhm.
And so that women are to blame for men's body issues. So therefore, gay men wouldn't have any, or anyone who's not in a normative cisgender relationship wouldn't have any. So it's this whole like men's body issues instead of being the fault of society, other men and women,
Media.
and media,
Advertising media.
Advertising.
Advertising media is the reason why we have body image issues.
But no, it's just women are the reason men have body image issues, and women's body issues.
I'm sorry, guys.
Are natural.
It's mine and
okay.
Alyssa's fault.
It's okay.
And women's body issues are just the world order. Like that's what what this Artie's whole line
That's
implies.
our right, Cullen. Hashtag women's rights.
Not only
Why the
okay,
fuck
Rates
would
of
I
body
like
image
Cult-
issues.
not only does
Why the fuck would I like Artie after
no,
this?
I don't understand why Artie is likable in any way, shape, or form.
We all hate Artie.
Artie's the
I don't want
worst.
to read Artie's QAnon manifesto.
But not only
Don't
does
talk
this,
about my Glee boyfriend like that.
this
JK, he's
line
awful.
implies everything that Cullen just said, but
Yep.
it wasn't challenged in any way by any of the people in the scene. Therefore, everyone who was watching this happen may not have understood that it was a joke.
Absolutely. That's the danger, is that the other
Yeah.
two characters treat him as an authority and accept what he says as fact.
Yeah.
So us watching it, who are trying to decide for ourselves what is normal in our society, have no idea what to do with this.
Especially
That's why, like-
the demographic. The demographic
Glee
is
is
young people.
Glee is so on this, like, now we understand it to be this very big phenomenon, but like season 2, like, it was really popular, but it didn't quite have the lift that it does even now. And it is on this pedestal where like I think all media is responsible for the messages it's putting out. But this in particular, like Alyssa said, like the demographic at which this is targeting and is also supposed to be about, they're talking about very complex topics in such a minimalistic way that like anything that could be a joke or even a serious comment or conversation that doesn't have multiple opinions, challenges, trying to get to like the heart of it, makes it so dangerous. So like
This should have been the A plot.
Yeah.
like this is a whole other episode. That's the thing, is that like it's really only tied in here because they needed another plot. Again, he had 15 minutes to write this episode on set. And he was like, body image issues, he literally thought, oh, the actor Corey Monteith, he's a little chubby. There we go. Perfect. He starts wearing a shirt while he showers, which also made my heart literally break.
Oh my God, yeah, that Schuster, in his desperate attempt to get laid, has literally installed lifelong body image issues for some of these children.
I don't even think, like, okay, Hannah, you're like, he's a little bit chubby. He's not chubby.
He's not chubby.
No,
He's
that's the thing. That's what I'm
He's
saying.
perfectly beautiful
Ryan
as he
Murphy,
is.
he doesn't have like the body type that the guy who plays Sam does, right? So like if that's supposed to be our ideal,
Are you talking about Cord Overstreet?
Yes, exactly. So like he's going to think, okay, like Finn's not supposed to be like the hunk like Sam is. Finn is like a little bit more chubby, quote unquote. Like that's the thing. That's the idea that's going through his head. Like that's really where this comes from. It does, because that's Hollywood. Like that's how media represents.
I hate it.
I know.
So much.
And like I can guarantee, because like we've talked about this before, how like Ryan Murphy will come up with ideas for certain character flaws, I guess, based on things that if the actor isn't already subconscious about, will become subconscious about, because like
with Cord Overstreet and his lips and
his
so
lips.
So flaws being physical abnormalities, which are not actually flaws.
Not even abnormalities, just physical attributes that Ryan Murphy deems jokeable.
Differences.
He deems jokeable.
Yeah.
Because like I know there's another character later on who has a big central part of their existence is based on the way they look, and actually quite a few people I'm thinking of. So like this is a trend, and this is like honestly just like one of the beginning episodes where it just like the writers are picking out things about the actors to portray into the characters, and they're not handling it well. And they're putting out possibly dangerous messages because they're not putting the nuance in that really should be there, because it's supposed to be a comedy.
If anyone wants to get away from Hollywood and see different body types, I am not just joking about this, watch foreign stuff, but watch BBC. They have so many different body types and skin colors. BBC. It's so refreshing to get away from Hollywood sometimes.
Yeah, like I want to give this show credit because it's 10 years old, and it's really easy for us to look at it in today's lens. But even back then, this stuff is not okay.
No. Yeah.
No. Mm-mm. And like Ryan Murphy does this even in shows that he produces now. Like he makes Emma Roberts, the bitch character in everything he makes, and like who knows what that's done to her psyche. Like
I was going to say, for my podcast, The Gory Days, I did American Horror Story 1984. I did a rewatch. Every episode I would release my podcast the day after, recapping what happened. And God, I know it's supposed to take place in the 80s, but Jesus, some of the way some of these men treat the women in that show.
Yeah.
I wonder if Ryan Murphy likes women at all.
He hates women.
Yeah. So the next scene in this storyline is after Will tells Sam, I don't want you to play Rocky anymore. I shouldn't have put you in that position. And Sam's like, is there something wrong with my body? And he's like, oh, no, not at all. And so then Sam is like, I could just see myself with fat rolls, like pulling over, like oozing over those shorts. And Sam's in perfect physical shape. So this is a sign of like anorexia.
Yeah, I actually
body dysmorphia. Yes.
Unhealthy body
I felt,
issues.
I felt more sad for Sam than I felt for Finn, because Sam, I think, did have extremely unhealthy body issues, like anorexia, like
thing.
what you're saying.
Finn didn't realize his body issues until this musical happened, and now he's faced with them. It really seems like Sam has been dealing with them for years.
Yeah, and like Sam isn't given the space to have this discussion with other people, really. Mm-hmm. It's really focused on Finn because he's like our main character like all the time. So yeah, like Sam probably has like these are signs of body dysmorphia and possible eating disorders that like, again, it's another like very nuanced topic that's very serious. and I don't think it's necessarily being played for a joke, but it's definitely being like reflected from Finn. It's like, oh well, at least Finn's not that bad, kind of.
Yes,
thing.
exactly. It's used as a comparison point for Finn.
Yeah.
His character, Sam's struggle, would be an entire character arc
Yeah.
on a season of Degrassi.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
Glee should be more like Degrassi.
as a man who's had issues with this kind of like eating disorders and stuff, I felt like I liked this plot and the fact that it existed. I just didn't like the way it was handled and resolved ultimately, because how it's resolved is Finn decides to walk down the hall in his underwear, which makes no sense. Also, he's called them tighty whities the entire time, and then they're boxers, and I'm like,
boxers.
this is just a weird. I'm like, it's a weird nitpick, but like, why don't you just call them underwear? And then it could.
I don't think
Ryan
Murphy doesn't know what tidy whities look like.
and he's teased, and he's like, oh, the teasing was gonna die down maybe by the time it's my 10th reunion, and it's like, so Will torments everyone and gets a private Rocky Horror Show as his reward, and Finn goes through develops body image issues and is mocked.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But okay, so when Finn's walking down the hallway, he's not mocked for his body. He's mocked for the way his underwear look. Like someone's like, nice grandpa underwear or something like that. So like he's not even mocked for his body really.
True.
So that kind of didn't line up. But also like his idea was so Finn in that he was like, I loved how the actor played this like purposeful idea of like, I'm gonna go and show everyone how hot and sexy I am, but then like in the context of everything it's also super problematic. But I did kind of like the way he played it. It was kind of funny. So I'm really conflicted.
He's good at being like cute and dopey and like, oh, I'm gonna do this is gonna be a great idea, and you're like, this is not a great idea.
Yeah. So also like when he's walking down the hallway, there was another extra, want to call him out. Is the first person we see who sees Finn, and he like turns around from his locker and then throws himself back into his locker out of shock, maybe disgust, I don't know. But I was like, get that guy an Emmy. That was amazing. Also doesn't make sense because no one would have that reaction. Like everyone would he would probably be like, oh, cool, this is happening.
Yep. Just kind of slowly turn and look back at your locker, try to figure out what books you have to get for your first class of the day.
Yeah.
And, move on.
Yeah. So Finn is almost suspended for a month, but Will argues it down.
There's a very specific part of this.
Yes. This is where my all caps notes
Yeah.
for this start.
All right, you guys want to take it away?
So we're in the principal's office, and
our favorite principal.
Yes, our favorite principal. And basically what Shu's argument is that there's a double standard because when, Santana pantsed Brittany?
Yeah.
Yes.
No one was suspended. But since Finn is walking down the hallway in his underwear, he's gonna get suspended.
Okay.
Well, that happened in the middle of a celebration.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so that's step one. It was in the middle of a celebration, so apparently that's acceptable.
That
but
makes it fine.
If we are thinking about this in terms of realistic expectations of men's and women's bodies separately, the fact that Brittany was pantsed is a form of sexual assault.
Correct.
And her and Santana would probably both be punished because they're both girls. They would have been expelled from the school in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it said that Brittany probably wasn't wearing underwear. That was what was insinuated.
Yeah.
So she showed more than just underwear. Then...
Which honestly made me sick.
Yeah.
Oh, so sick. And then, on the flip side of that, so they didn't have anything happen to them because it was a celebration, whatever. Then Finn walks down in his underwear, presumably for some sort of performance because he's in a costume. And apparently children needed a grief counselor and therapy for this. It's supposed to be played off as funny, but it's stupid. It's not funny. And it's actually kind of rude. And
because what he's wearing is what you'd wear to the pool or the beach.
Right. It's so It's not even like a big deal. But then also in terms of like realistic standards, Brittany and Santana in real life would have been expelled, and then Finn would have gotten maybe a couple days of detention for pulling a prank. That's how it would have been seen in real life.
Yeah.
And there's like this argument of like what a precedent is based on the world's treatment of men's bodies versus the treatment of women's bodies. It's totally flip-flopped. It's inaccurate, and it is dangerous because it doesn't make any sense. And honestly, like, I happen to know that like performance, like men being able to perform in their underwear happened at my school. Like in our school talent show, they would like strip down to their underwear, and it would be a joke. It would be funny. But if women were to do that, like if I would do the same thing, even as a joke, I would have been suspended. Those guys didn't get anything because it was part of a joke. So this whole setup is getting everything wrong, all for the sake of, I don't know, shoe? I have no idea.
Yeah, the double standard is really real, and it's
incorrectly executed in this episode.
Executed.
Yeah. So that's that storyline.
Even down to the way that it's filmed when he's doing his strut down the hall. There's all but one shot of his full body as he's walking, and it's overtly unsexual.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well,
But that's a double standard. If a woman were in her underwear, it'd be difficult for the camera and editing to not make it sexual.
Oh yeah, we would see the boobs, we would see more of the
butt.
ass. Like we have a brief shot of his butt, but it's not like played up as like sexy or anything. It's just like that's his butt.
Well,
his shorts are kind of baggy.
and that's what I think they were trying to say, is that if a woman is somehow sexual, then it's fine because that's the way that the world is supposed to see them. But the reason why that's problematic is because if a woman wants to be sexual, and then she can't be, because the world isn't allowed to see woman as like being sexual in her own right. It must.
Yeah.
That raises.
Yeah, it has to be the world looking at the woman as sexual.
That raises another good point. The fact that I guess we're left to assume that all the women in this choir group are totally comfortable with doing Rocky Horror and wearing all the fishnet exorbitant things that they have to wear.
Right.
Yeah.
And like why would
Because that's what women normally wear?
Why would Emma also be okay with that? Like we don't explore women's perspective on this at all. And it's just solely focused on men's perspective, which is I honestly feel like is actually very interesting for a show like Glee, in which like it's supposed to be tackling the experience of being an outcast in general, and they're so focused just on the men's experience as an outcast in various ways.
But they're so happy to pat themselves on the back going like, oh yeah, well we know women have to do this, but no TV shows are dealing with this problem that men have to deal with.
Honestly, like the idea of men's body issues is so underrepresented and not talked about. And that like Glee, again, like I've said this before and I'll say it again, Glee is not the space to have that conversation. Unfortunately.
No. Everyone's beautiful. But really quick before I leave, I wanted to talk about Finn's epiphany. Like it's in one scene, and I think it takes up maybe 40 seconds total. But first, what's his name?
Sam.
Sam says the bread part isn't about being confident in who you are and how you. It's about being confident in who you are and how you look, no matter how douchey you are. That guy's totally cool with being uncool. And Finn says, "Yeah, I'm not there yet. I actually started showering with my shirt on." And then Sam says, "Just be you, and the sexy will flow through." And Finn's like, "Yeah, you're right." And Sam says, "Where are you going?" And Finn's like, "To show everyone how hot and sexy I am." Did I like black out? Where is the part in there that Finn realized something about himself?
Nowhere. It was missing. You didn't black out. It was just.
I didn't skip any
Again,
lines.
It just doesn't exist.
Ryan Murphy had 15 minutes to write the episode
Yeah,
he
remember?
needed it to have.
As his mom was dropping him off.
We can't actually put that much stock in this.
This is a really fun podcast. I like you guys.
Oh,
Oh, thanks.
my next question is our Gleeboot question. So would you do an episode? It's a two-parter. Would you do an episode about men's body issues, or would you do an episode about Rocky Horror? Would they be combined? Would they be separate? Would you do neither?
I think the body image issues, I think it would be interesting to have it be both like men versus women body issues. That might be really interesting.
Yeah,
There's probably
that'd
a
be
lot of
interesting.
songs
I
that
would
could go
do-
along with that. Rocky Horror has no place in Glee.
No, I was gonna say there's no way I would do a Rocky Horror Glee episode, but I would definitely do a body image episode regardless of gender.
Yeah, you could sing "Pretty Hurts" by
Perfect.
Beyonce.
I feel like you could do a Rocky Horror episode, but to do it justice, it has nothing to do with the show itself. It would have to do with the fallout between parents and the school and the body image issues and just the children portraying sexual promiscuity issues. Like
Yeah,
the
that's a
mayor
whole
might get involved.
separate- Yeah, it's such a whole separate issue. I feel like it
Yeah.
needs a different episode other than body image issues because they're both so complex.
But
Yeah.
then then you go from it goes from Rocky Horror equals body issues, and then you're going into a whole sort of Footloose episode. You know how Footloose is
Mhm.
the children against the town, and so that's how I feel like a Rocky Horror episode would go down, as sort of a Footloose sort of thing.
I just think of I did Bye Bye Birdie in my middle school, and they kept the line in where one of the characters punctuates the end of a song by going, "Let's all have an orgy." And the joke is that they don't know how to pronounce orgy because they're a child, but they want to have an orgy. And that was in the play, and my parents had to explain that joke to me and why it made them uncomfortable.
Oh no!
Yikes.
So yeah, it was a different time.
All right. So getting down to, I think it's Tina time.
Oh boy,
Tina had 2 lines.
she did. She had 2 lines. I did not catch them all. They were shown to me by other people.
And Kyle, what was your least favorite song this week?
So a lot of the songs, it's funny, I like the music from this musical. It's the musical itself that I take umbrage with. It's all of the action and the stage direction and the fucking ending. I'm sorry, are we allowed to swear on the show?
Yeah,
Yes.
we swear all the time.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. So I
As
gotta.
you ask at the end of the show.
I think I've been reserving my swear words, but I'm 3 Mai Tais in. So let's see. My least favorite song was "Sweet Transvestite." I freaking love Tim Curry's version of that song, and I hate to be like a Rocky Horror fundamentalist purist because I really don't care. But specifically when you do Rocky Horror, it's supposed to be like a revivalist show. Like you're doing it because of the years of people that have done it before. So number one, by doing it as children, you've already removed one element of well, I never was around when this was popular, so I'm just doing it because it's a meme, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So when they do Sweet Transvestite and they change it so wildly, it's what was the point of even doing it? Just sing it the exact way that Tim Curry did it. So Sweet Transvestite is my least favorite one because, man, she does such a good job of Mercedes does such a good job. I want to give a shout out. Who's the actor that plays Mercedes?
Amber Riley.
Amber Riley does such a good job with this song, and it is not Sweet Transvestite. It's a wonderful reinterpretation of the song that would be great at any other context. But if you're trying to tell me, oh, we're doing Rocky Horror and that's what you do with Sweet Transvestite, I'm very upset. So that was my least favorite
That's
song.
your least favorite? What's your least favorite, Alyssa?
Okay, somebody give me a rundown of every song that was in this episode.
So we started with science fiction double feature. We have Over at the Frankenstein Place, Damn It Janet, Hot Patootie, Sweet Transvestite, Touch Me, and Time Warp.
Oh, Oh, okay. It's between two, and since you already did Sweet Transvestite, I'm gonna go with Touch Me. I just did not like the connotation that this song was used in. I like Rocky Horror Picture Show, okay?
Yeah.
But this song with Emma and Shu made me want to throw up. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Touch Me. Hated it. Hated every moment it was happening. Wanted to not be there.
God, especially the high schoolers looking in.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Hannah, least favorite.
Touch Me. Like, I felt that way before we came into this, and then realizing that Shu chose to be Rocky and was even knowing that Rachel was Janet, solidified it for me. So yeah, Touch Me can go fuck itself in this version.
Yeah, the fact that he even pretends that it would be okay for him to be Rocky. Like, it's already a red flag for John Stamos' character to be in there to mix adults and children, but he's a pretty innocuous character. I guess that's fine. Like, oh, maybe you had your biology teacher have a cameo in your musical. We used to do that for our musicals, so that makes sense. But for him to be the sex symbol, for him to even think that's okay?
No. What was your favorite song?
My favorite song was Over at the Frankenstein Place, because I love that song. The chord progression in it is really fun. It's funny, this musical has, like, it suffers from being a product of its time in that it didn't exist in the 80s, so it didn't have musical 80s tropes to build off of. It's a song that, in my opinion, wants to be in the... It's a musical that, in my opinion, wants to be in the 80s, but is stuck in the 70s, and so it uses a lot of rockabilly chord progressions and blues scales and stuff, which feels really silly. So Over at the Frankenstein Place is the one that, for whatever reason, feels like it uses those blues scales and those rockabilly tropes to its advantage. And it's fun to sing, and it's actually accurate to the original, so that's my favorite from this show.
Alyssa?
Okay, so I'm gonna go with Sweet Patootie. That's
or Hot Patootie.
Right? Hot Patootie. One of these days, I'm gonna get song titles right. I had a lot of fun watching it. I had a lot of fun singing with it. Everybody knew the swing dance steps, and I would have known the swing dance steps. I could have danced to it. And it was fairly clean. Like, that was probably the cleanest song.
It's got that going for it.
Yeah.
The cleanest song where an adult sings with children.
Yes, exactly. Even though his shirt was just undone one button too many times. Like, you know, I could get there.
Yeah. My favorite was Damn It, Janet. I thought it was fun, and I liked Finn's voice in it. Yeah. Hannah?
I also loved Hot Patootie. Again, like, I also could sing along to it. It was the only one that I felt like I wanted to sing along. The rest of them made me severely uncomfortable. Yeah.
All right. And then MVPs and LVPs. Kyle, who is your least favorite character?
Schuster, Jesus. Like, with a bullet. He's a disgusting creeper monster. And I can't believe that the show thinks that I would root for him.
He's a creature of the night.
Like, what? I can't accept what kind of reality allowed people to think, yeah, that's our hero. That's a heroic thing to do.
Yeah, he's definitely...
Oh, he's flawed. He'll learn.
He's definitely my least favorite this episode.
I think we can all agree that he's the worst, right?
Yeah.
Okay, shout out to Artie, though, because...
Oh, yeah. Honorable mention for being awful.
Close second.
Artie's pretty terrible, but Schuster's the worst.
He's off-screen terrible. On-screen, Schuster's the worst. Matt Morrison, Jesus.
Yeah, he's garbage in this episode. It's like he's terrible most of the time, but this is his worst episode.
Oh, he's so good in American Horror Story 1984, just like walking around as a GD sex symbol, like waving around that hog every scene.
Oh, gross.
It's so great. He's laying it on Carrie Fisher's daughter. It's the best.
Oh, I'm so ill.
All right, and who is your favorite character this week, Kyle?
Sam, number one. Yeah, Cord Overstreet. Can we like get this out of the way? How old is this actor at the time of this episode?
Not 16.
Okay, never mind then. Never mind. He's a looker, but he's not that great. Because he's only 16.
No, I said not 16.
Oh, he's over. Okay,
Yeah,
so he's
an
over
adult.
18?
Yeah, they're all adults.
Oh, well then, yeah, number one, Sam, because goddamn, man. Cord Overstreet, this guy
21.
walking around.
21.
Oh, okay, then that's safe. Then yeah, I'm gonna say number one, Sam. Cause man, we get to see like those abs, and he has he shows up in his Rocky outfit. He has everything to show off. He has every reason to be body confident.
Yes, he does, and it's
I can
very
fix him.
sad that he's not.
I'll support him.
end.
I'll be his emotional support. I'll tell him, no, it's okay. You can eat as much as you want. It's fine. Just do it topless.
Alyssa?
I'm going to go with Finn because I thought he was a great Brad. And also, like, even though the body issues were not tackled correctly, I appreciate that they were tackled with Finn.
Yeah, I was going to go with Finn too. He was very relatable in this storyline, and he was a good Brad, and he's a sweetheart.
I was surprised how like authentic he portrayed those body image issues. Like I said, I really resonated with that subplot, and I didn't expect to resonate with anything in this episode, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a surprise.
My MVP, I'm deciding between Mercedes and Mike Chang, kind of for the same reasons.
Ooh.
That they like stood up to do a role when it like needed to be done.
Yeah.
So I definitely have like that's just some good merit there, but I think I'm gonna go with Mercedes, because like clearly she's going through something personally where she's like being kind of timid about it, but I'm proud of her for being like, I'll step in and do this because I deserve it.
The show must go on.
The show must go on. So that brings us to the end of our episode. Kyle, do you have anything you'd like to talk about or plug this episode?
Sure. So my podcast, The Gory Days, can be found wherever you're listening to podcasts right now. Just type in The Gory Days and you'll find me doing whatever episode is most recent about either a movie from the 80s or beyond. You can find me at The Gory Days on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, even Tumblr. I think I have something rattling around over there. But I also have another podcast called Feeling It Out with Kyle and Connor, which is a podcast where myself and a friend of mine, Connor, talk about being creatives with mental illness. And you can find that as well on whatever you're listening to right now at Feeling It Out with Kyle and Connor.
Ooh, I want to check that out.
Oh, thank you. And since I'm plugging, I might as well mention that I've also produced a comic book recently that's available on Amazon. It's called Spellslinger. You should check it out. It's by Connor Fitzgerald. He's the artist and writer, and I produced it.
Nice. Very
Spellslinger,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's Spellslinger on Amazon. Feeling It Out with Kyle and Connor, or The Gory Days. That's what I'm up to.
Wow, you got so much stuff going.
Thank you. I try to stay busy.
Thanks for coming on. And before we go, Hannah, do you want to quickly plug our SOOOOs?
Sure. So we are on Instagram and Twitter at Gleeboot Pod. And then we're also on Tumblr, gleebootpodcast.tumblr.com.
All right.
Cool. Wait, I have to do mine. Okay, it's AM Swearingen.
No,
It's
it's a.m.swearingen.
Okay, A.M.Swearingen. Okay.
And you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at yourboyryan99 and YouTube at yourboyryan.
I'm telling you, one of these days I'm going to get it right.
All right.
God.
Well, thank you for joining us on this Glee journey. Next week, we'll be talking about the episode Never Been Kissed, where Puck comes back from juvie.
Oh boy.
Yep, excited. Not.
So fun.
So fun. All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.